All right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
National anthem is unavailable. Roll call and verification of quorum. LJR Vice Chair McClellan.
Check, is this on? Okay. Mole.
Here.
Bodier.
Here.
Okay. Kira.
Here.
Gomez. Absent. Martinez.
Present, my bad, present.
All right. Myself. Millington.
Present.
Richard.
Present.
Temple.
Present.
Caldwell.
Present.
Robbins.
Present.
Balding.
Present.
Van Kirk.
Present.
Castillo.
Present.
Ferguson. Absent. Lerdo.
Here.
Maury.
Here.
Wynn.
Here.
Oh, here. Okay. Simcoe.
Here.
Wanjin.
Here.
Revert.
Here.
Domino. Absent. Foster. Absent. Galloway.
Here.
Custis.
Present.
Beaumont.
Here.
Becerra.
Present.
Gal.
Present.
DeMarla.
Here.
Patel.
Here.
Yellman Chili.
Present.
Perrell.
Present.
Borges.
Here.
Roll. Absent. Almanar.
Present.
Anderson.
Present.
Castellan.
Present.
Sebula.
Present.
Paul.
Present.
Holmes.
Present.
Huerta. Absent. Costas.
Here.
Martin.
Present.
Salerno.
Present.
Salcedo.
Present.
Tashe. Urea. Cerisi.
Present.
Cox.
Here.
42 out of 49. Quorum is verified.
Thank you, Vice Chair McClellan. Approval of the minutes. Take a look at the minutes from the special session, and I will take a motion. Pro Tem Cerisi.
Move to approve last meeting's minutes.
There's been a motion to approve last meeting's minutes. Are there any objections? Seeing none, I'll take that as general consent. Approval of the agenda. Take a look at tonight's agenda, and I will take a motion. Senator Spalding.
Move to approve today's agenda.
There's been a motion to approve today's agenda. Are there any objections? Seeing none, I will take that as general consent, and the agenda stands approved. Open forum. Are there any non-senators wishing to speak during open forum? Seeing none. Announcements from the student body president, President Lopez.
Hello, Senate. I hope everyone's had a great week so far. Just a couple of announcements from me. Today, I attended my first Board of Trustees meeting where we voted on the strategic plan for the university. This plan is the goal within the next 5 years to become a top 50 metropolitan university. I did hyperlink the plan on within my announcements. So if you want to see the plan, go through it. If you have any questions, I was on the working group for the past year, so I'd be more than happy to answer any questions you may have. And moving on from that, I'm excited for you all to see our first round of confirmations tonight. With that, I do ask that you please treat them with the patience and the kindness that they deserve. And that's it for my announcements, but I would like to ask Chair Salerno and Vice Chair Anderson to come to the podium.
Hello, everyone. At this time, we would like to dedicate a moment of silence as we call the 19 victims of the Uvalde shooting and the 10 victims of the Buffalo shooting. Neve Bravo,
Jacqueline Jalen Casares,
McKenna Lee Elrod,
Eliana Ellie Garcia,
Irma Garcia,
Uzia Garcia,
Ameri Joe Garza,
Jose Flores Jr.,
Javier James Lopez,
Jace Carmelo,
Tess Mata,
Eva Mireles,
Leila Salazar,
Jayla Nicole Seguero,
Maite Juliana Rodriguez,
Miranda Mates,
Alicia Ramirez,
Annabelle Guadalupe Rodriguez,
Alexandria Lexi Anilla Rubio,
Eliana Cruz Torres,
Jackie Casares,
Rogelio Torres,
Roberta A. Drury,
Marges D. Morris,
Andre McNeil,
Aaron Salter,
Geraldine Tolley,
Celestine Chani,
Hayward Patterson,
Catherine Macy,
Pearl Young,
and Ruth Whitfield.
Thank you.
Any questions for President Lopez? Seeing none, thank you, Daniela, and thank you to Chair Salerno and Vice Chair Anderson as well. Announcements to the Student Body Vice President, none. Comptroller's report, nothing there. Cabinet Forum, coming soon. Announcements from the Interim Chief Justice, none. Announcements from the Supervisor of Elections, none. Announcements from the UNICEF Committee Chair, none. Announcements from the Scholarship Committee Chair, none. Senator Domino.
President voting.
So noted at 6:14 p.m. All right, announcements from the Senate President. That's me. Hello, everyone. I'm back. Just to reiterate some expectations for those who are on Zoom, please, 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 and I'm literally pleading to you to turn your cameras on and please participate, because all we see right now and all the live stream sees were 6 faces. So I'd really like to see participation. Obviously, a Zoom option is something that I allowed. It's not necessarily something that always has to stay in place. So if I see that Zoom participation is not up to standard, I will move us back to an in-person Senate. So please turn your cameras on and participate. Next up, communication. For some reason, it has been increasingly common that senators are messaging me at like midnight, 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m. And every time I get a notification, it wakes me up. So please, I'm asking everyone to not message me between the hours of midnight and 7 a.m. And if you have a question, just ask me during business hours. I will be sure to get to you, I promise. But I can answer to my best ability when I am well rested. All right, next up, procedure for tonight. In order to keep things as efficient as possible, I will not be allowing any non-committee members to speak during the confirmations, and I will be limiting the amount of questions that senators can ask to 3 questions. The point of that is not necessarily to say that you all can't ask questions, but we only have 3.5 hours, and I believe that ENA and both LJR did a very thorough and extensive job of asking questions. And so I'm going to limit it to 3 questions per person. Additionally, as we move forward tonight and through every other Senate meeting, please ensure that you are referring to everyone by their proper titles. So please ensure that you are using the term senator and that person's last name, or if they're a chair, refer to them as chair, vice chair, etc. Any questions for me? Seeing none, ILA report, none, ELA report, ELA Galloway.
Good evening, y'all. So this is something I did when I was GAP chair. I did random sports facts, so I'm trying to make it a little different based on my casual obsession with baseball. On this date in MLB, this is from an Instagram page. This is not from me. So I will be not relating, but giving credit to the Instagram page. On this date in MLB, in 1969, Hank Aaron laces the 500th double of his illustrious career. Aaron is only the 3rd player in history to earn 500 doubles and 500 home runs. Next week, I'm starting my one-on-one meetings. Please schedule your meeting time with me with this doodle poll. If there is not a time presented on the link that is feasible for you, please reach out to me with your preferred meeting time. You could do this via email or via, if you have my phone number, or group me. I check all platforms, so please feel free. And in this meeting, we will be going over your Senate and college initiatives, as well as if you are interested in being the college lead. Further, you will be added to your college group me chats by the end of this week. Information regarding your dean meetings will be communicated in these chats, so please keep yourself updated in your designated chat. And that is it from me. Thank you.
Any questions for ELA Galloway? Seeing none, Senate President Pro Tempore report, Pro Tempore Cerisi.
Hello, everyone. So I've been holding Makeup New Senate Orientations. You should have been emailed with available dates. If you have not met this requirement, if you didn't get an email, that means you attended the New Senate Orientation. So if you have not had that and you did receive that email, please schedule that. RSO assignments for the session have been made. I'm going to keep making this announcements until the deadline, which is Thursday, June 2nd at 5 p.m. So you can see in here your RSO distributions and a template to send out those emails. Please get those done before the deadline, or I will hold you in non-compliance. CC both myself and D. Sir Foster as proof of completion. And if you have sent them already, you can forward them. I held an internal fiscal and caucus leadership meeting last week. Those all went really well, and those will be continuing. If you are in any of those leadership groups and don't know when you are next meeting or are not in the chat, please let me know so I can add you. If you filled out the form to get a mentor or to be a mentor, those pairings were sent out Sunday. Please, if you're a mentor, reach out to your mentee and figure out how you'll be making the most of your partnership. If you did not fill out the form, unfortunately, the deadline has passed and you will not be part of the mentorship program for the summer. However, the request form will likely open back up in the fall if you would like to be considered then. And then if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to myself or anyone else from the Pro Temp's office. And that is all for me.
Any questions for the Pro Tempore? Seeing none, thank you, Sam. Deputy Pro Tempore of Legislative Affairs Report, DPT Wanjun.
Hey guys, so this week I approved one piece of legislation which will be seen on first reading tonight. I've been very excited to hear all of your guys' ideas for legislation. They all sound amazing, and I'm even more excited to see those come across my desk when they're finally submitted. Fiscal leadership will be meeting next week to discuss the ANSF financial training with Dr. Posey. It'll be next Thursday. So if you have any concerns you'd like to make sure are brought up, please make sure to reach out to me or any member of fiscal leadership. And then I also linked my DLEG feedback form that I had given to you guys like early when I was confirmed, just to make sure that you guys always had ability to give me feedback. It's anonymous. You don't need to worry about like me thinking poorly of you or anything like that. So yeah, now that we're into the groove of things, I'd love to have some feedback.
Any questions for Dilag Wanjan? Seeing none, thank you, Katrina. Deputy Pro Tempore Senate Relations Report, none. Caucus reports, Asian/Pacific Islander American Caucus Report, none. Black Caucus Report, Chair Holmes.
Hi, everyone. Sorry, I'm just trying to navigate this real quick. Okay. So hi, everyone. We did not have a meeting this week. However, we will be meeting this upcoming Tuesday and next Thursday for our Color Me Queer discussion. If you're interested in attending, it will be held Thursday at 4 p.m. via Zoom. Additionally, a Buffalo mass shooting statement on behalf of Black Caucus has been made. However, due to the recent events in Uvalde, please correct me if I pronounce that incorrectly, a greater and more broad statement needs to be made, still impactful, but is being worked on by the appropriate leadership. And I extend my deepest condolences to the Hispanic/Latinx community and the families of these victims. Gun violence and hate crimes need to be met with preventative measures through regulation and legislation. Keep pushing your legislators, register to vote, and spread awareness. And I can't wait to see you all and enjoy your Memorial Weekend. Also, I linked something right here. The folder is called Opportunities. It's a clothing drive that will be held on June 25th and a summer internship for y'all if you're interested. And that is all from me. Thank you.
Any questions for Chair Holmes? Seeing none, thank you, Sierra. Disability Caucus Report, Chair Cox.
Hey, just an update. We sent out the ex officio emails and we began selecting this session's projects. And we also have some meetings planned already to work on those.
Any questions for Chair Cox? Seeing none, thank you, Chair Cox. Hispanic Latinx Caucus Report, Chair Salcedo.
Hello, everyone. So at our last informal meeting with Hispanic Caucus, we had a brainstorming session to see what we will do this upcoming year, and especially for Hispanic Heritage Month. I also met with a group of Latin ARSOs called the Hispanic Latin Student Council. It's just Latin ARSO presidents where they get the chance to collaborate with each other. I met with them and we discussed the Uvalde shooting, and I also got feedback from them as ARSO leaders. I meet with them every approximately 2 weeks, so you can expect updates on that periodically. And they also expressed interest in holding an Uvalde shooting vigil. It's quite unfortunate that we have 2 shooting announcements today, but that is the state of our world right now. So I will be updating y'all when that vigil happens, and you're all obviously welcome.
Any questions for Chair Salcedo? Seeing none, thank you, Chair Salcedo. LGBTQ plus caucus report, none. Women's caucus report, Chair Sabula.
Everyone, so yesterday we elected Senator Castillo as our vice chair, so very exciting. We also discussed some goals for this session, with one of our priorities being safety on campus and making sure women feel safe on campus. So if you have any concerns or ideas, oh, why is that? Okay, for some reason it's there twice. So that confusing. If you have any concerns or ideas for me and you're not on the caucus, please let me know. I want to get as much feedback as possible. So thank you so much.
Any questions for Chair Sabula? Seeing none, thank you, Chair Sabula. DPT Foster.
President voting.
So noted at 6:25 p.m. Any other senators needing to become present voting? Seeing none, we're good. Unfinished business, none. Fiscal Committee caucus time, none. Fiscal Committee reports, CRT Committee Chair Borges.
Thank you. So in committee this week for allocations, we approved allocations 54, 042, 046, 048, and 049. We postponed allocations 54, 036, 043, 044, 047, and 050. Our meeting was a little shorter with only 11-page agenda. So at the end, we had time to learn about our spending policy by playing CRT Jeopardy. Congrats to Senator Richard for being the winner. And I yield to my vice chair.
So in yesterday's meeting, we devoured gel rings and chocolate-covered rice chips, which were both kosher. Senator Potier liked the rice chips, while Senator Becerra liked the gel rings. On the other hand, Chair Borges liked them both and had a self-realization that he likes kosher food after all. However, as hungry as I was, I did not like either.
Any questions for CRT leadership? Seeing none, thank you to CRT leadership. FAO committee report, Chair Millington.
Hello, everybody. So we saw our first allocation this week, which unfortunately we had to PPI. That was allocation 5401 due to timeline reasons. And we also discussed our quarterly budgets, which we decided on, and I included that in the report. Just a reminder to the committee and Senate that next Monday is Memorial Day, so FAO will not be meeting. And also consider joining FAO, guys. It's 4 p.m. on Mondays. It's super fun.
Any questions for Chair Millington? Seeing none, thank you, Chair Millington. RS committee report, Chair Temple.
Hello there, Senate. So we saw the following post-funding reviews where we voted not to sanction 2, sanction 5 at 5%, and have postponed 7. You can see all the allocations we have seen. We saw the following VPFs, of which we approved 2 and postponed 5. You can see those as well. And then we also saw 2 post-funding forms voting to approve both of them. And finally, and I'm very, very glad we did this, we finally elected a vice chair. Congratulations to Vice Chair Robbins, to whom I will now yield to.
Awesome. Thank you, Ethan. So I bet you guys thought I would be predictable at this point, but now I'm the ORS vice chair. And starting next week, we will be having something called Scarlet Snapshots, where I will once again be the comedic relief for y'all, sharing the highlights or potential lowlights of our committee members and their camera roles. That's all.
Any questions for ORS leadership? Chair Temple, do you have a question for yourself?
More so a point of information, I completely forgot, since this coming Monday is Memorial Day, we will not be meeting. So sorry, Vice Chair Robbins, we might need to postpone your snapshot till next week.
Great. Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you to ORS leadership. Fiscal legislation, notice of legislation on first reading, none. Notice of legislation on third reading, none. Notice of legislation on second reading, none. Internal committee caucus time, none. Internal committee reports, ENA committee report, Chair Gell.
Hi, Senate. We met on Tuesday for almost 5 hours. I encourage you all to read or at least skim the minutes, but if you haven't had the chance to do so, I did create a quick summary, which is linked on the confirmation summary of each appointment we saw this week. If you want to take ahead and look at that. There are seats available on ENA. In Senate, we're on a crunch time, so if you feel passionate about seeing appointments, you can join ENA or reach out to me if you have any questions. When seeing appointments today, please remember to refrain from any accusatory questions or berating debate. When talking about qualifications, experiences, or character, there's a fine line to walk. Please do not walk the line, cross the line. Please be respectful. Here are some examples of questions that are appropriate and inappropriate. I attached that where it says questions. Here are a list of some suggested questions that you can ask for every position. So it's laid out. I did not create this. This was Deleg Wanjan. So if you want to thank her, she did a fantastic job with that. Also, I also linked the list of reasons of why each person was selected per the President Daniela and VP Zelli. If you want to look at that as well, they explain why they chose the positions. I think this could be helpful if anyone has any questions regarding that. And I also wanted to shout out my vice chair. We had almost 19 pages of minutes and you did phenomenal holding it down. JC, you are a king. So I hope you're all excited to see the first round of cabinet. If you have any questions, let me know.
Any questions for Chair Gell? Seeing none, thank you, Chair Gell. And yeah, thank you to all the vice chairs who do a lot of hard work that sometimes goes unnoticed. Aile Huerta.
Present and voting.
So noted at 6:30 p.m. Seeing no questions, GAP committee report, Chair Hall.
Okay, good evening, everybody. GAP had a productive meeting about some upcoming initiatives. To start off, I spoke with Vice President Martinez yesterday about some of the upcoming midterm / voter registration ideas that SG is looking to accomplish. The first one being that student government will be assisting with voter registration during UCF Orientation. Obviously, UCF Orientation has already started, but we're hoping in the coming days, if not next week or the week after, to start doing that in coordination with the Orange County Supervisor of Elections to try to start registering students as much as we possibly can. Obviously, this is a very important goal of student government. And if you are interested in getting involved in any capacity with that, we will have more information about that soon, about how you can volunteer and help with that. The other thing we kind of talked about, and I just want to expand a little bit on from what I wrote, is the need for student government to work collaboratively when we come up with our plans for how to best maximize the potential of the midterms. We want to maximize our effectiveness and ability to reach students from both a voter registration and voter education perspective. We'll have more information about what that'll actually look like, but the reason I say this is because I know that this is an issue that a lot of people are very passionate about. Valid, rightfully so. But what we do not want to end up happening is a ton of different senators have one-off events that the rest of student government is not aware of. At the end of the day, we want to be as coordinated as possible, particularly because when we look at 2020, we had the highest voting precinct of any college precinct in the state of Florida. We want to continue that. We want to continue that with the support of not just all of student government, but with UCF from an administrative perspective. And from my conversation with Vice President Martinez, it sounds like we already kind of have some support from the top to really try to maximize our potential. So if you have ideas, I don't say this to say that you need to not present those ideas or you can't move forward with those ideas. It's just what we want to end up doing is creating a space where we can collaborate and bring all those ideas together to make events that are as effective as possible. So if you have any questions or have any ideas about potential events, please come to me to talk about it. And hopefully soon we will have some actual official way, particularly when we have a new government affairs coordinator that will allow you to actually work directly to make these ideas a possibility within the larger framework of our collaboration. If you have any questions about any of that, please don't hesitate to ask. And I also did not write this, but obviously it's an emotional time. And I'll just reiterate what I said in the GAP committee. Feel free to talk to people about these things that you're feeling about the recent tragedies. Don't keep it to yourself. Talk about these. Your feelings are valid. If you want to put them into practice or into work, this is a great avenue to do that. But at the end of the day, we all exist as resources for each other, whether it's actual legislation or action in student government, or actually just expressing how you feel about what's happened. So yeah, be sure to talk to each other because I think that you can channel this passion and energy and frustration into something positive. And we've already seen movement in that direction. So yeah.
Any questions for Chair Hall? Chair Holmes?
Hi, Chair Hall. I just had a question. Like if we do have any, like let's say if a senator has an idea for a event regarding voter registration or anything like that, would you recommend us to attend a specific GAP committee meeting or multiple, just so we can get a good sense of if our idea is what GAP is already doing, or if it can be implemented in a different way, be something separate that GAP carries out? Sorry, I'm tripping over my words a little bit.
Yeah, so to kind of expand at least briefly on that, one of the goals when we have a government affairs coordinator is to basically form a interbranch committee that in the past has been open to any person wanting to be involved. And all this to say that all of our voter initiatives are not just going through GAP. Obviously, GAP has a vested interest because of the nature of our committee. But what we really want to do is make sure that everyone's ideas across departments and branches are being acknowledged. So we'll have more information about that in probably the next week or two. But I would say in the immediate, hold off for now. We can definitely talk one-on-one about it. But the goal, like I said, is not to tell people that we don't want to do this event or we want to do that event. The goal is to just try to bring everything under one umbrella because it shows a more united front, and then we can get as much involvement as possible.
Any other questions for Chair Hall? Seeing none, thank you, Chair Hall. LJR committee report, Vice Chair McClellan.
Good evening, everybody. Chair Urea is not able to be with us today, so I will be giving the announcements and handling the censure process tonight. I hope to be as much of a resource as Chair Urea was last week for you all as we get into it. This week, LGR was not able to make quorum, so I decided not to hold a meeting and to instead sort out some issues that arose because of it with the attendance and stuff. Do not be worried if we did not see your absence request this week. All absences are going to be considered pending until we get a chance to see them next week along with any other requests made in the meantime. Today, we have the last censure that we were not able to see last week. As you will read in the censure documents, this censure is brought up by Chair Borges, citing Senate Rule 3, Title 3, and Title 9 as the context to censure Chair Gao. The LJR committee found merit in the censure and passed it in committee with a vote of 4 to 3 to 1. The link to the minutes can be found in the agenda, and the recommendation of censure is also linked in the agenda. This censure was brought by the CRT chair about an issue in a CRT meeting. The issues are described as repeatedly starting side conversations and disrupting the committee as a whole, repeatedly spoke without being called on, including directly speaking to RSOs, individuals without permission from the chair, recognizing RSOs and individuals to speak during the meeting without the consent of the chair and the rest of the committee, disregarding CRT procedures by asking multiple questions at once without being recognized, breaking decorum. It is alleged that Chair Gao, broke Senate Rule 3, Chapter 3.04, Senate behavioral standards, specifically the ones concerning to maintaining a professional atmosphere during the Senate meeting and actively paying attention to issues and legislation on the Senate floor. Title 3, Chapter 309.5, concerning Robert's Rules of Order, and Title 9, Chapter 905.1, concerning repeating disruptive behavior by any student government agent and disregard for student government regulations. At this time, any questions or?
We're now online for questioning to the LJR committee. Any senator may ask a question to the LJR committee. Seeing no questions, we'll move on to statements from Chair Hall.
Specifically when it comes to LJR, just kind of a question because I see it in here. In your opinion, in the opinion of the LJR committee, is there relevance to things that have happened in previous sessions with regards to what the censure is about?
So what I'm going to see here is that the titles and Senate rules and things that are presented as the reasonings for the censure are only to be considered within this session. Although arguments can be made and the Senate can decide on whether or not they are valid or meritorious, even if they come from the previous session. But anything that we decide, when we were deciding merit in LJR committee, it was concerning things happening in this session.
Chair Salerno.
During this meeting, did you ever go back and look at the CRT meeting minutes that was stated in the in both notice of recommendations and the censure document?
I cannot speak for every single committee member. They could have looked at it or not at their own discretion, but in regards to those CRT minutes, because the actions are breaking decorum and speaking out of turn and things like this, it is very unlikely that the vice chair recording the minutes was able to record that accurately, because Senator Gao or Chair Gao allegedly wasn't speaking on, being called on. So these are things that would not have been caught on the minutes. So it would be hard to say.
Vice Chair Becerra.
I accidentally closed my laptop, so I'm good. Like I already did my attendance.
You were okay, perfect. I saw you come in. I just want to make sure. Any other questions for the LJR committee? Seeing none, we're now going to hear from the individual who issued the censure. Chair Borges, I'm going to give you the same time that the party issued has to speak, so you'll have 10 minutes.
Am I not allowed unlimited time?
There wasn't a motion made, and I'm going to give you the same time that the party issued had to speak. So you have 10 minutes to speak. Vice Chair McClellan.
I do want to mention in the statutes, there is no time limit given to the issuer, but the issue does have a time limit of 10 minutes. I just want to make that.
Yeah, so it doesn't say that there is a time limit. It also doesn't say that there is expressively an unlimited time. So I'm going to make that decision as the chair to do the same amount of time. So 10 minutes when you're ready.
On the evening of 4/20/2022, starting at 4:30 p.m., I chaired the conference registration and travel committee meeting where we were scheduled to see 35 allocations. In the interest of time, I tried to run this meeting as efficiently as possible while also trying to make sure my committee was learning how our spending policy and committee procedure intertwine and work together. I did my best to keep my committee on track, on topic, and respectful of the time and efforts of the individuals and RSOs who came to request funding. However, my committee had some significant issues with decorum consistently throughout the meeting. One senator in particular, Chair Gell, was particularly noticeable for her repeated starting of side conversations and disrupting the committee as a whole. In addition to this, Chair Gell repeatedly spoke out without being called on, including speaking directly to RSOs and individuals without permission from the chair, recognizing RSOs and individuals to speak during the meeting without the consent of the chair and the rest of the committee, and continue to disregard our procedures by asking multiple questions at once without being recognized. In accordance with statutes, I felt as if Chair Gell broke decorum on multiple occasions after repeated warnings to the entire committee, disrespected me as chair, and caused our committee to repeatedly be derailed and waste time, which could have led to a loss of quorum in the meeting due to members having other obligations, resulting in those in attendance not being able to be granted funding. The pro tempore representative and I had to call decorum multiple times during the meeting. However, as soon as the committee would quiet down and get back on track, Senator Gell would continue side conversations with people around her during the meeting, disrespected other committee members and myself, and pulled the focus of the intent of the meeting. These concerns were brought up with me and multiple committee members at the conclusion of the meeting. In the CRT meeting on 4/13/2022, the same issues described above occurred, where I had to call decorum at least once, so there was much less business in a shorter meeting. Though this is an issue I'm dealing with in regards to the committee as a whole, my main concern lies with Senator Gell, as she's a returning senator and should have a better understanding of Robert's Rules of Order, of which all senators are required to have a working understanding. She has also consistently set a very poor example for the newer senators in the committee, who may be learning that this is an acceptable way to behave as student government agents in a public, formal committee meeting setting. More issues arise when considering her direct communication with non-committee members during the meeting. In my experience with Senator Chair Gell, she has repeatedly shown a blatant disregard for my authority as chair by speaking directly to RSOs and individuals without my consent, asking additional questions without my consent, and inviting RSOs and individuals to speak during meetings without the permission of myself or the committee. In the very first CRT meeting when chair elections occurred and I initially wasn't elected into position, I witnessed inappropriate behavior after the conclusion of the meeting, with Chair Gell speaking crudely under her breath, specifically saying "F this." At the time, I felt that it was inappropriate to approach Chair Gell about this, considering she had just undergone emotional distress of losing a chair election and believed in her ability to hold herself to higher standards in her future as a student government agent. However, the subsequent CRT meetings proved to me that she was unable to do so without direct consequences. To further explain accumulating issues with the behavioral standards of Senator Gell, in the 53rd Senate session, Gell outright admitted to illegal activity in the middle of a CRT meeting, which should theoretically have been noted in the minutes, as the comments were made during a meeting that was public record. In addition to this, the former CRT chair during the 53rd Senate session shares all this above sentiments and more. The recommendation of censure in the form of a direct consequence, I feel, will be most effective in serving as motivation for Senator Gell to improve her behavior and ensure the future success of CRT and Senate as a whole. I do have more. I want to make sure that I clarified in the censure, it's not a direct indication of character and is not meant to act as something that deals with anything other than Chair Gell's conduct within Senate. This is not meant to be compared to Chair Gell's other involvement around campus, only her actions within Senate. Also, I know Chair Gell brought up during her speech in LGR that I've texted her and complimented her outfits, etc., and that is all true. I don't hold this lack of decorum against her as a person or against her character. And despite the outcome of the censure, I know I'll be able to continue the separation of my personal and professional relationship with Chair Gell, as I recognize that being kind and respectful to her is necessary to ensure our success within Senate, and that a lack of decorum does not change our similar interest in ENA or fiscal policy or advocating for our colleges. I want to state that I value her as a person, as a senator, and respect her as chair. Now, I will go over some of the things that brought up in LJR so we can reduce questioning in the sake of time. So I want to reiterate that I do everything I can to keep everything I do objective. And if it helps, my former vice chair, who was close with Chair Gell, who was her mentee and to my knowledge doesn't have any negative experiences with her, saw the same issues and did express those concerns to me after the 420 meeting. When it comes to whether or not I spoke to Chair Gell about this, I did speak to her. I spoke to Chair Gell about my concerns with decorum. While we were expressing our concerns over Dela Guanchin's appointment, near the conclusion of our conversation, I established that I wanted to make sure the committee was attentive and on task, which was a general statement that I believe would let Chair Gell know I wanted the committee to follow decorum. In addition to that, I also put the following in my chair announcement on the 4/20/2022 CRT meeting. Please let me know if at any time you guys need a small break and we can recess. Please also ask me any questions as you guys need. I really want to make sure you're all understanding what's happening and learning about our spending policy in the most efficient way possible. This essentially was a nice way of saying to not have side conversations and to ask me, the chair, any questions, as side conversations are against decorum. At the more recent 5/18 meeting, my announcement stated, I want to reiterate, just like every meeting, that if you have any questions, please ask me them. If you are confused, please ask me for clarification. If you have anything at all, no matter how small, ask me. Please do not turn to other senators on the committee when you have a question, as it is distracting and unprofessional. I will always try to answer any questions you have to the best of my ability. I had to do this in addition to my previous meetings announcements and calling decorum in previous meetings to again state that I would not tolerate lack of decorum. During the 518 meeting, I did have to call decorum once for the same general issue of side conversations. While it comes to calling decorum, nobody has to call out specific names or look directly at the person who's violating decorum. However, I did look at Chair Gell and the senators around her while saying decorum during the 413 and 420 meetings, specifically for their side conversations during the meeting. At least one of those times being while a student was requesting funding was speaking, which is very unprofessional and makes student government look bad in front of our constituents. I also understand in the LJR, our senator had an issue with the minutes and not specifically stating decorum typed out. However, I've never seen Senate minutes having decorum typed out. Because it did come up, I have started putting decorum. So in the 518 meeting, it does state decorum. And I will continue to keep a list of senators I've had to call decorum on, because I am willing to submit a censure to anyone who continuously goes against decorum, not just Chair Gell. I appreciate Chair Gell being on my committee and I appreciate her input during meetings. However, funding students is our job and I need to make sure we can do that job. And like I said before, her lack of decorum could have prevented us to do so and is simply unprofessional. If any of my other committee members continuously lack decorum or our job to fund students can be inhibited, I'm willing to censure those members as well. It is important to note that as of now, Chair Gell has been the only senator with established and long-term issues with decorum and CRT. In addition to all of this, at the LJR meeting, decorum had been called and heard numerous times, and according to Chair Holmes, issues with decorum also occurred during a Black Caucus meeting. So not only a CRT an issue, this is a Chair Gell as a senator issue with decorum, in which it has been proven time and time again that she does not hold herself to follow decorum, and therefore it is my opinion that the censure is the only preventive measure to ensure these issues do not persist. If you'd like to see the decorum calls in LJR, they're in the agenda on the bottom of page 13, titled Decorum Repeatedly. It states decorum repeatedly called on Senator Gell for speaking past time and had to mute Senator Gell. I've also never gone on my way to attack, bully, or harass Senator Gell, as she claimed in her response to the censure in LJR. Everything I've said was from a professional standpoint as a member of fiscal leadership and as chair of CRT. Unfortunately, where the concerns come up about Chair Gell in any manner, it seems as if they are taken as a personal attack and she claims she's being harassed. This is why I feel it is difficult for senators to approach her with concerns, and my communication issues with Chair Gell may be something that other senators try their best to avoid. I cannot speak on whether others have done this, these aforementioned accusations. However, any attempts with Chair Gell to spread slander and misinformation about me is something I would defend myself against, as it is simply not true. When it comes to the legal activity in question, if she's okay with it, I can explain it to you guys. When it comes to the timing of the censures, I totally understand the viewpoint of a senator who brought it up. However, it's important to note I wrote this censure on my own accord and started with no knowledge that the other two censures were being submitted. For the very last concern for me, that during the LJR meeting, Gell once again threatened to send me and others to conduct, which I see as an attempt to use student conduct to try to silence me from expressing my concerns as chair, and it's something that made me, and I'm sure other members of the committee, extremely uncomfortable and wary about expressing our concerns. Personally, I've experienced a lot of anxiety throughout this entire process due to the continued attacks I've endured from Chair Gell. Thank you.
We still have 2 minutes and 18 seconds. Do you want to use that time, or you're good?
Yeah, I'll add a little bit more. So when it comes to the illegal activity in question during LJR, if Chair Gell is comfortable with me explaining it, I'm happy to do so, as I did witness her admit to legal activity during one of the past session CRT meetings. However, sorry, I just lost it. Oh my God, where did it go? Oh, there it is. However, I used it in my censure to simply show a continued line of lack of decorum and not to bring up legal concerns or attempt to add this as a violation. And pretty sure that's all. Thank you.
Great. We're now in line for questioning. So anyone in Senate is now allowed to ask a question to Chair Borges. Vice Chair McClellan.
I would like to open the floor to any members of CRT willing to speak on whether or not they about the alleged decorum issues, because I know it was discussed that they're concerning the minutes on said times, and that it would be very hard for these events to take place and then be recorded on the minutes. So if there's any members of CRT willing to give their account.
So I'm going to see a motion to let the Senate decide if CRT members are going to speak. So if you want to make a motion for that, the Senate can vote.
Motion to see CRT members speak.
There's been a motion to allow CRT members to speak. Any objections? Seeing none. Pro Tem Cerisi.
An amendment to the motion, if I may, to allow CRT members who were in attendance at the specified meeting, because I know some members that were there since then have resigned.
Vice Chair McClellan, are you okay with that amendment? All right, so there's been a motion to allow CRT committee members who were at that particular committee meeting to speak. Any objections? Seeing none, if there's anyone from CRT who is there and wants to speak, they may. You don't have to, but you may. We're still in line for questioning. Hurrell.
I do have a question, but also I was a CRT member that attended.
You can go for both.
Okay, so I just wanted to ask you really quick. You briefly mentioned in your speech that you did talk to Daisy. Was it prior to writing up the censure, or because I know this kind of, you only talk about 2 meetings and it kind of happened quickly, and then we saw it the first meeting after. So when did you talk to Chair Gal, and if you didn't, is there a reason why?
I can't remember the exact date, but this was right before or the day of the appointment of the DLEG, because we were discussing the DLEG's appointment, and that was before the censure was submitted.
And then I also wanted to talk about my experience. I did write a little something. I would first like to make Senate aware that I do in fact have a relationship with Chair Gal outside of Senate. We've known each other for a while now. Do with that what you guys want to do with that. That being said, I do also very much respect Chair Borges, and we've talked about this individually. And I would like to say we have a good relationship as well. I would just like to explain my experience in CRT. As many of you know, it can be extremely confusing. And although Chair Borges has been very diligent about checking in on it with us to make sure we all understand what is going on, it can still be extremely overwhelming, especially to new senators like myself, especially within that specific meeting, since there was a lot of allocations for one of our first meetings. And this was very much the case for the first couple of meetings. At the time, or well, from what I know, at the time this censure was put in, we have only had 2 or 3 meetings, including the first meeting at which we primarily did elections, which is honestly a learning curve time of when we truly were completely and utterly confused, at least I was. From what I observed, the times Chair Gell was talking out of turn was when another senator would turn to ask her a question. I understand that Chair Borges was concerned about decorum, as interruptions can slow us down dramatically. However, if that was the only reason behind the censure, I believe I myself should be receiving the same treatment as well as a couple of other fellow senators in CRT. I can name a few times I turned to Chair Gal to ask a question.
So we'll go ahead and keep this at your experience in the committee meeting.
Okay. Yeah, so pretty much I have turned to Chair Gal many times to ask questions. It's extremely confusing, but as from what I witnessed, the only time Chair Gal was talking out of turn was when another senator, I myself included, would turn to her and ask her a question. I can't say that I witnessed everything she had said, but it seemed as though all she was talking about was what was going on. That's all.
Senator Roll.
President voting.
So noted at 6:54 p.m. Deeser Foster.
May I direct 2 questions to Vice Chair Robbins?
To Vice Chair Robbins. You may not.
Can I ask her 1 question?
You may ask a question. Are you asking it in her capacity as CRT chair or CRT
In her
vice chair?
capacity of her experience at the CRT meeting.
Vice Chair Robbins, were you at the meeting?
Yes.
I'll allow it.
So in Senator Borges' censure, he said that you also noticed lack of decorum during the CRT meeting, and you had to see 35 allocations that day. So I'm just wondering, from your personal experience as previous vice chair of CRT, did you think that the lack of decorum in the meeting due to allegedly Chair Gal, did that slow down the 35 allocations that you had to see that day?
I'm going to choose not to answer that question.
Any other questions? Great. Senator Richard.
May I direct a question to you, Madam Speaker?
You may.
I just recall that you were at the meeting for a little bit. I didn't know if you could recall any experience on your perspective on that?
The one where there are 35 allocations. Yeah, no, I was just sitting there and I wasn't necessarily paying attention to how senators were behaving or anything. I was just sitting there. Salerno.
In his speech, Chair Borges mentioned a lack of decorum during a Black Caucus meeting. Would Chair Holmes be able to speak on that?
I'll allow it.
Can I speak now or no? Okay. So I didn't know if the speaker was supposed to, or okay. Essentially that meeting was I want to say my second meeting as Black Caucus chair, and we were discussing my Melanated and Making History event. I want to preface that that was the very first event that I've ever held as a senator and as Black Caucus chair. And we were kind of scrambling to create that event because I was voted in on January 31st, and the event had to be put on in February. And so for that meeting, I was telling my members of the caucus about how we were going to move forward with that meeting. And Senator Gell, well, Chair Gell was there. I wasn't aware that Chair Gell was going to be at the meeting, but I welcomed her anyways because, you know, they're public meetings. So there was a motion for, you know, a non-committee member to speak, and I allowed that. And Chair Gell was asking me a series of questions. And in my perspective,
We'll keep it to what happened and not any.
Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot. I'm sorry. And just asking me a series of questions regarding my event. And I was answering those questions, but it got a little lengthy, and Director Fletcher, the Director of Communications, I'll just refer to her as that because I know some senators may not know her. The Director of Communications had to interrupt and said, let's all calm down. Even though she said it was like, let's all calm down, we just continue to just talk about the meeting and the event. And Chair Gell just stopped asking questions after that and was just pretty quiet after the meeting. And after Director of Communications said that, I didn't call decorum because I was pretty much still a new senator, and I wasn't aware that I could do that. But that is what happened at the meeting. I did have Black Caucus members come up to me asking me if Chair Gell was going to join Black Caucus, asking why she was there, and was just concerned about the questioning and the tone, and the questioning, the tone, and the verbatim of her speech. And that is what happened at the Black Caucus meeting. Oh, sorry.
Any questions for Chair Borges? Chair Hall.
Just to get clarity, and I guess specifically with this and the citations and whatnot, since the LJR Vice Chair McClellan stated that things from the past session, the focus of this is on the current session, do you feel that aspects of, because I mean, I'm just being transparent looking at the minutes, both in your speech and in Chair Gell's response, you both cite things that happened in the last session. Do you feel that for the rest of this discussion on the Senate floor, that things that happened in previous sessions are relevant to the conversation about the censure that's happening right now?
I defer to the LJR Vice Chair because I don't know everything with that. He would know more. Because if he says that we shouldn't use past session things, then I would be okay with that, but that's not my decision.
Vice Chair McClellan, you may choose to answer that. You can choose to not answer it.
I'm just going to kind of say what I said before. Whether or not the Senate floor wishes to consider that, that is up to the Senate. Whether or not that precedent, or if you, however you want to consider it, counts for this session. But what the LJR committee, when we were doing it for like merit of the censure, we were only considering this session. I really cannot tell you how to vote, because it's different when we're voting in LJR versus here. You can consider that into the actions to see whether or not this censure is warrant or not. So that is up to you.
Follow up.
This is a follow-up for Chair Warhus, so I appreciate it, Vice Chair McClellan. Specifically with the censure, in the speech that you gave, you've outlined that you feel like you would give this censure to any senator that was doing this. You did cite previous activity in the 53rd session in relation to different things that happened there. So I guess just the only question again going forward is, do you feel that there is a personal aspect to this censure with regards to yourself and Chair Gell? Just because it sounds like this is something, and it sounds like the LGR committee also noticed, it sounds like this is something that has happened, at least in terms of miscommunication, whatever it might be, over a long period of time.
In my opinion, no. Like I said, I started noting down when I called decorum during the committee. As of now, to be transparent, I do have decorum call on Senator Richard and Senator Potier. If those continue, then I will have to censure them as well. But after those decorum calls, they seem to be perfectly fine. So
I will go Dila Guanjin, then Chair Salcedo.
May I direct a question to members of LJR?
You may.
I believe in Chair Borges's speech, he mentioned something about decorum issues in LJR. Would someone be able to speak on that?
Vice Chair McClellan.
If you're asking decorum issues in LJR, I will say that during this during the censure speeches, during Chair Gal's speech, when we hit 5 minutes, we notified Chair Gal that it was 5 minutes, but she continued to speak. We called decorum vehemently, and eventually we just had to, on Zoom, mute her feed. That is what happened.
Chair Salcedo.
My question is to Chair Borges. So I read Chair Gell's statement, and she said that you had not talked to her privately. So I just wanted to ask you, had you had a conversation with her privately about this issue?
yeah, so like I said, we did have a conversation while speaking about our issues with the appointment of the DLEG. At that time, it was a very brief conversation, but I thought I had my point across.
Any other questions for Chair Borges? Seeing none, we'll now hear from the party issued. Chair Gell, you will have 10 minutes to speak when you are ready.
Thank you, Speaker. Hi, Senate. To be frank, the censure is coming from issues that lie deeper than what Chair Borges brings up. A lot of petty drama has occurred on the floor, like you have seen, and I am sorry for my part in this, but these individuals have decided it's okay to slander a senator's name without communication or evidence and facilitate an environment that is inappropriate and uncomfortable. Chair Borges did not communicate these issues with me. It is going to be a he said, she said game, so I will let you do with as you will. How I came to the conclusion that the pro temp rep mentioned in the censure is DLEG Wanjan is due to the fact that she was the rep that was present in these meetings, and she is the rep for the CRT committee. I had the opportunity to talk and discuss issues I had with DLEG Wanjan in a meeting where I asked her if she had any grievances she wanted to voice, and she said no. This can be testified by the pro temp and a recording of this conversation. This meeting occurred on April 29th, 2022, which is days after all of these alleged issues. During this time, DLEG Wanjan had ample opportunity to disclose the concerns this censure includes, but fails to do so. I even explicitly asked her in the recording if she had any concerns, and she said no, which was a bold-faced lie to my face based off this censure. She did not once voice these concerns to me when she had the time. I am once again in a position where DLEG Wanjan fails to communicate. No communication before this censure from DLEG Wanjan, even 9 days after these alleged issues. I hope you as a body can see and understand how inappropriate this is. I have voiced these concerns to the Senate about about D. Legwanden's communication style and how it was a concern for me. And we are once again in a situation where she fails to communicate, even though she stood on the Senate podium and said she would do better. Where Chair Borges said I started many side conversations, he fails to provide actual evidence of this, evidence that is tangible, evidence that cannot be wavering, evidence outside of the scope of his friends D. Legwanden and Ariane Block. Chair Borges only makes a statement about these events, but never gives evidence, so I do not know exactly what he is referring to. We now must assume what Chair Borges is referring to in this censure. This leads me to only think what he is referencing is when senators ask me questions pertaining to CRT. I actually scrolled, I'm sorry. I want the Senate to know this censure was decided without a conversation for me, and this is a pattern of Chair Borges. I took the liberty to explore the confirmation materials on the evening of 5/19. In the ILA interview, Borges, he states he went behind an administrator's back, which can be seen on the fourth question under general. I also included the screenshots in this document. In this statement, he never mentions communicating with his administrators about his concerns. Furthermore, in the same document, Borges was asked if he brought up issues with the system he had experienced with during the time of SGLC. He then responds, I did bring it up, but after the fact. My interpretation of this is Chair Borges failed to communicate even though he saw an issue. This constitutes two incidents that Chair Borges himself admits he did not communicate. This goes to show a pattern of lack of communication with individuals and his disregard for communication to alleviate issues. Rather, Chair Borges goes to extreme measures such as going over an administrator's head and now filing a censure without means of communication. Borges decided not to address any concerns in committee or to me personally. There is no evidence of these issues Chair Borges mentions in this censure besides what Borges can say. I am happy that one person's perception of an incident does not make their perception fact. Fact must be proven through documents, recordings, or tangible evidence that cannot be subjective. Chair Borges states he and the pro tem Brett had given repeated warnings to the committee. This is true, but I do not think it had to do with myself in particular. Where Chair Borges and pro tem Rep called decorum, neither individual specified a specific senator, therefore it was addressed to the committee as a whole. It is through Chair Borges' thought process that I am to assume these decorum calls were for me. Based on the premise of his saying in the censure, I felt as if Chair Gell broke decorum on multiple occasions after repeated warnings to the entire committee. Feelings are not true. Feelings do not equate to a censure. Just because Chair Borges felt I broke decorum does not mean I broke decorum. He does not provide evidence of this. It came to my attention Chair Borges had a conversation with Senator Taché about decorum and let him know of his behavior. This was noted in LJR. However, this was not done for me. Chair Borges did not communicate with me like he did for Senator Taché. I then asked myself why. Maybe because this censure is a reach based on the premise that there is no evidence. Maybe because the lack of respect you must have to not communicate to someone about issues and then run to a censure. But then to have the conversation with another senator about the same issues you allegedly have with me, but only censure me is disrespectful and insulting to me. Continuing, in the censure, these are all hypotheticals about quorum mentioned in the censure because he states, which could have led to a loss of quorum in the meeting. What is implied by this is because something could hypothetically happen, I am receiving the censure, meaning because there was a potential outcome, I'm getting censured, not because it actually happened. I communicated to the chair that I had to leave early, and this was due to personal issues with the chair excused. Thank you for that. This can be proven by the E on my name on the minutes. I attached the minutes. However, now according to Chair Borges, personal days to rest is not an appropriate reason to miss committee. This can be shown by the screenshots I have attached in this document. This proves how Chair Borges' words are wavering. How can we in a body ensure his words in the censure aren't wavering? The answer is we simply can't. My mental health is disregarded by Chair Borges because my reason isn't valid enough that I need to rest after an emotionally daunting day, an emotionally draining day where I had to sit in an LJR meeting, hearing 3 censures of incidents being narrated by individuals whose motives have already been questioned on the floor. The first 2 censures at least had evidence of what was stated, whereas this censure is just statements. We as a body advocate for mental health and avoiding burnout, yet our own chairs of our committee cannot empathize with an individual who was seen not only 3 censures in one meeting. I did not feel comfortable letting Chair Borges know I had to go to campus resources because he has now created an environment that feels hostile and uncomfortable for me because of fear I may be censured, slandered, or outright bullied in an environment that I should feel safe in. Chair Borges states these instances in the censure of me breaking decorum as wasted time, but time wouldn't be wasted if the committee members understood CRT enough to properly function. Chair Borges is now turning the longevity of CRT into my fault by insinuating these claims with no evidence. I asked Chair Borges to have a private conversation with him at a CRT meeting after a CRT meeting on 4/13. During this time, I asked if he had any issues in which he said no, which is a lie to my face. There is no documentation of the specific incidents, so it will be a he said, she said. However, where Chair Borges fails to provide evidence throughout his entire censure, I do not. I give tangible evidence of recordings and incidents that do happen. That did happen. Chair Borges texted me on the 14th about keep matching fits I had with Senator Richard, and on the 21st about some Senate business, not breaking sunshine law. I was never under the assumption both of these times that he felt this way, and I feel as though he is misleading me and the student body with the information being present in this censure. To reprimand me based on prior feelings he has. Chair Borges feels comfortable enough to text me about how he feels about other senators, but not comfortable enough to talk to me about his concerns he has. This shows how Chair Borges and these individuals are trying to manipulate a situation to create a false vendetta. Chair Borges in the censure states, in the CRT meeting on 4/13, the same issues described above were occurred where I had to call decorum at least once, though there was less business in a shorter meeting. This has no relevance because it is just a statement that holds no correlation to me. This is to deal with the committee. This should be addressed to the committee and not in a censure. These are empty words. The relevancy of 0413 is interesting because I had a conversation with Chair Borges about how I felt, and I expressed my grievances that day, like I mentioned earlier. I told him I felt bullied and undermined by his friends, Sean Ariane and Dileg Wanjan. Chair Borges told me he was not involved and did not share similar sentiments, but this is obviously not the case when 3 out of the 4 individuals I talked to him about are now seen to share similar sentiments in this censure. Former Senator Ariane Block has nothing to do with any of this when she is referred to as former CRT chair. It is a major flaw of this censure. Chair Borges states Ariane Block shares similar sentiments, but she can't share similar sentiments if she was not present in the CRT meetings mentioned. How can someone share similar sentiments in a censure if there was no tangible evidence that was shared or she was not there? Chair Borges states, in addition to this, the former CRT chair during the 53rd session shares all of the sentiments above and more. Ariane Block cannot share sentiments for an event that she was not present for or there was a lack of evidence for. This proves Chair Borges is blatantly lying in this censure once again, another lie. This shows a large hole in the censure. Once again, a stretch to condemn me without evidence because of petty drama carried out by these individuals. It should be noted that the credibility of Ariane Block should not be taken into account as she is an individual who has spoken microaggressions against the Caribbean Student Association by calling a predominantly Black. Okay, I will move forward. As for disrespecting Borges as a chair, this is far-fetched. I have congratulated him. I shook his hand in front of CRT elections, and I've tried to keep a professional relationship. He never specifies specific incidents of disrespect, and he never explains what he means by disrespect. He makes a claim of disrespect with no actual evidence. Chair Borges did not communicate any of these claims of disrespect with me, even when I gave him opportunity to, even when I communicated with him and heard him and chose to believe him despite all of the drama surrounding the situation. Many of the events did not happen. They are lies. The incidents are very ambiguous because I do not know what you're actually talking about. Chair Borges fails to provide any actual evidence. Chair Borges never mentions an actual event that can be depicted in the CRT minutes. Right now, it is feeling as though a blanket censure without any mention of a real incident. None of the accusations are supported by specific senators, but rather Chair Borges, Chair or Dileg Wanjan, and Ariane Block doesn't even go here.
1 minute remaining.
Okay. You said 1 minute?
Yes.
Okay. I would like to know that Chair Borges speaks for me when he says I was undergoing emotional stress from losing the chair. That is an assumption. He never asked me. I was undergoing emotional distress because of what was happening in that meeting, if any of you were present. When I said F this, it was outside of the meeting. It was outside of anything, does not break statutes. I don't know why this is here. I've never dealt with anything like this. I do want to apologize. I've sat on so many committees and so many different entities within student government. This has never happened. Please remember, there is no evidence. There's no real depiction of anything happening. It is just what Chair Borges says. I yield the rest of my, Chair Borges says that we did talk about Chair or Dileg Wanjan and how we were both upset at her. He never mentioned anything about decorum in that statement. It will be a he said, she said. I'm just speaking on my part. He has never talked to me about any of these issues. I yield the rest of my time.
We're now in line for questioning for the party issued. Senator Spalding.
Okay, so one of the major topics that the censure is about is having side conversations. And I know that a member of the committee had said that they're just asking questions. So my question for you is if it was true that the committee members were just had questions regarding CRT, why not keep it brief and short and inform them to ask Chair Borges, as it's his responsibility as chair to answer those questions and concerns of his committee members?
Thank you for that question. I did. If the answer was long, I did direct them to ask the chair. If it was a simple question that has been done, and not only in my committee by these individuals, if someone asked me, why do international students need to be asked if they're international? I would simply just say it's a longer process. I feel like I did direct them if it was a longer answer, but I hope that answers your question.
Any other questions? D. Wanjan, then Chair Cox, then Maury.
May I ask who issued the censure?
Chair Borges.
Chair Cox. I'll get back to D. Wanjan, but Chair Cox.
Why? I'm just trying to understand, why did you spend so much of your speech on D. Wanjan instead of the censure?
I thought it was important for the body to know and understand that D. Wanjan is mentioned in this censure as one of the supporting people of this censure. And I wanted the body to know that there was lack of communication from the people who support this censure. And I felt it was integral to note that there was no communication when there was an opportunity to communicate any issues that not only her chair or not only Chair Borges shared, but the sentiments that were shared in this document.
Senator Maury.
Do you agree with the incident that Vice Chair McClellan talked about? Did that actually occur?
I want to give context to that. I was on Zoom. I was home. So when I heard the 5 minutes were up, I looked at my camera and my mic was off. And I was worried that I wasn't talking the entire time. So I asked, because my mic was off, because I was reading my speech off of the Google Doc. The Zoom was in the background. I looked, I said the 5 minutes were off. I saw my mic was muted and I was like, oh no, did I not say anything the entire time? I asked the question, oh my gosh, was my mic on? Because I didn't know if what I had communicated or said to the committee was heard, because I wasn't in person to ensure that it was on Zoom. So the reason why I did that, I should have raised my hand. I didn't feel like I would have been, it was literally in the moment, like, oh my gosh, I hope what I said was being heard. And that's why that incident happened. Even when that was called, Senator Tache also was just like, when that was brought up, he also was just like, that's not fair to say, because I genuinely thought it was a technical difficulty.
Wanjan. Follow up. Right, we'll do Holmes, Foster.
Madam Speaker, am I allowed to direct a question to the LJR Vice Chair?
You may.
Is tangible essentially, does a censure need to be filed based off of tangible evidence?
So statutorily, it does have to cite Senate rules or the titles that LGR has jurisdiction over. So anything that's not including the ASNF budget, the finance code, or election stats, yes, they have to tie back to something. Yes.
Mr. Foster.
So I do agree with you when you said it's a he said, she said situation. So I want to ask you this question, since former Vice Chair Robbins couldn't answer my question earlier. Was there a lack of decorum in that specific meeting? Do you feel like because of you? You obviously don't have to answer it if you don't want to.
Honestly, when decorum was called, if decorum is called in the Senate floor, it is called to the entire floor. So decorum calls were happening, and I think they were fair. Do I think it was solely because of me? No, I can't have a conversation with myself. So it's like, so from my opinion, I did not think it was about me, because if I called decorum to this floor, are you gonna, like, I shouldn't ask that question, but I would expect no one to take that personally unless it was called Daisy decorum. And then I would know that was about me. But to something to a chamber this big, I couldn't know if he was calling it on me, if he was calling it on the RSOs. There was no specification of that. So I would say, I think there was a decorum in the committee, but not solely because of me.
Chair Holmes, do you have another question?
Yes, Speaker, I do.
You may.
So in the censure that Chair Borges had filed, he mentioned that Chapter 309.5, that about Robert's Rules of Order, and stating that you spoke out of turn, allowing RSOs to speak. Is that true?
I don't know what specific incident he's talking about in this, so I can't say if it's true or not. I don't know. Therefore, I would say it's not true because I don't have a specific incident that can be depicted for me to understand.
Patel.
Can I say a point of information? Because I have the answer to Chair Holmes' question.
Were you at the CRT meeting?
Yes.
I'm gonna say that since Chair Holmes directed it to Chair Gell, that I'm not gonna take that point of information. Any other questions? Maury.
I just searched through the entirety of the censure document. It doesn't mention Dileg Wanjin anywhere, so I don't understand why she has to be brought up in regards to the censure.
Yeah, so it mentions the pro temp rep in the censure. I'm not sure this censure, if this is this one, but it mentioned the pro temp rep and how I thought it was fair for the body to know that it was her that was the rep at those meetings. And I thought it was fair. The body obviously was aware that there were issues and that we had to have a mediated conversation. And how this relates is we had that mediated conversation to communicate. And that mediated conversation was 4 days after the censure was filed, 9 days after all these alleged incidents that she supports in this document. There was no communication, and that's why I felt it was appropriate to communicate that to the body that the individuals mentioned in this document did not communicate with me about any of these issues.
Foster, Harrell, then Holmes.
May I direct a question to Chair Patel since he was at the CRT meeting?
You may.
Again, since this is like a he said, she said situation and nobody else is really like answering direct questions, was there a lack of decorum at this meeting due to Chair Gell, since that's what the censure is essentially about?
Yes, and I can elaborate if you want me to.
Harrell?
I was going to direct a question to either Vice Chair McClellan or you, whoever can answer it, if that's okay.
You may.
We got brought to our attention the 53rd session, the Black Caucus meeting with Chair Holmes. Are we supposed to be taking that into consideration? I'm sorry, I'm just confused. Are we taking both sessions into consideration, or are we just taking this session into consideration?
The Black Caucus meeting happened in the 54th session, if I'm not mistaken.
Follow up?
Well, point of information, I guess.
You may.
She mentioned it was in February, which is the 53rd session.
Holmes, this is your third and last question.
I'm sorry, my mic wasn't turning on. May I direct a question to, is it Chair Patel or Vice Chair Patel?
He's the chair of a caucus. He's a chair.
Okay, Chair. May I direct a question to Chair Patel on the elaboration of his recollection of events, but not perspective?
I'm going to say no, because it wasn't, to my knowledge, brought up during the LJR meeting. So I'm going to say no on that.
Okay.
Wanjin, then Borges.
May I ask how many times the pro tempore representative was referenced in the recommendation of censure for that to be such a big part of your response?
I'm going to choose not to answer that question.
Borges?
I'm able to, so what you said from before, it was mentioned in the censure, that instance. So even though it wasn't brought up in LJR, it was because it was in the censure that was filed, that the instances that are being brought up.
I'm going to still say no on that. All right, we'll go with Salerno and then Foster for your last question.
I think it was Senator Borges that, Senator Borges brought up that he called for decorum. I believe it was Senator Richard and another senator, I do not remember who else it was the instance, I don't know actually if I'm directing this question to Daisy or not. Sorry, Senator Chair Gall. But did he call decorum or specifically decorum to one person? I'm trying to get a better understanding of why Senator Chair Gall said that it was just decorum called, and then Chair Borges said that decorum was called on other people. So I wanted to know if it was a direct decorum or a general decorum.
I wasn't present at the 518 meeting. The decorums that I'm mentioning were from the meetings of the 413 and 420 meetings, which were never to a specific person. I wasn't at the 518 meeting. I attached screenshots of what I told Tyler. So Senator Chair Borges. So I'm sure he can answer that.
You never directed the question, so that's why I allowed it to go to Chair Gall. Chair Borges, your question.
Point of information, the call for decorum on Senator Richard and Senator Podier were at a meeting that Chair Gell was not at. So those, yeah.
Your question? Okay. Foster.
Can I ask Chair Patel to elaborate on his earlier statements? I did ask him a question. He said you could elaborate on it.
I'm going to say no because he was already asked to elaborate on it. Every member from CRT was given the opportunity if they wanted to already speak on it. That already said no twice, so we're not going to do any elaboration on that. Right. Any other questions for Chair Gall? Is there a motion to go to debate on the censure? Any objections? Seeing none, we're now in debate on. I turned off my mic. We are now in debate on the censure. Give me 1 second because I have to time all of you. It's going to go. Start with you, then we'll go with Cox and then Costas. You have the floor.
Hello, everyone. So I know I can be very quiet sometimes. I promise that I'm trying to connect the dots here. So I've known both senators for a long time now, and I have great respect for both. I want to let Senate know that I will be abstaining. I am in CRT. Under my scope, I did not see harm, as I do remember Chair Gallo listening/helping with the question that a member asked. However, I hear a lot of sides of the story to this, specifically from what happened to other committees. On the personal level, I had zero problems with Chair Gallo. However, I believe it is important to understand and listen, not just hear all sides of the story. I feel like this is a mess that's going on right now that could be cleared up with communication. I respect my fellow peers strongly. I hope they understand, and I'm trying to connect the dots as quick as possible and perhaps even remove my personal experiences to better connect these dots. I had no need to ask any questions and rather listen during questioning because I wanted to reflect and understand what was going on at a rapid pace. I just wanted to let everyone know how I felt and maybe obtain something from that. I will be abstaining.
Chair Cox.
Okay, so as everyone saw, we did, Chair Hall did have to call the quorum on Chair Gell during her speech. I also think the speech was pretty disrespectful towards several people. So I think that kind of proves that this is a repeated issue. So I will be voting yes.
Senator Costas.
I will be voting against this censure. I believe, just like some of the censures we saw last week, these issues could have been solved by simple confidence and communication and addressing the other person. I think we have spent almost 2 meetings now focusing on censures just directed toward Daisy Gell, Chair Gell, and the first 2 have failed. And I honestly think this one's not going to pass as well. These issues, again, could have been handled through simple communication, but now we're just relying on he said, she said from both parties. And now other people are also being brought up to speak on what they saw. And it's just adding to the mess, like the previous senator said. So I've known Dave. I also want to say I've known Chair Gell for a few months, and we've worked on a lot of issues, and she is receptive. And from the meetings I've been in with her, and I've been in many, I know if decorum was called, at least on my end, I would expect that she would listen and respect the rules that are being demonstrated by the chair. So I don't know how credible either source is on this, but I just want to say I'm voting against the censure.
All right, we'll go Robbins, Yalamanchili, then Mole. Vice Chair Robbins, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. So the reason I did not answer the senator's previous question in the questioning period regarding the efficiency of the meeting was because, frankly, Chair Borges and I were swamped with stress regarding that meeting, both meetings actually, because of all the work put into them previously leading up to them. And I was bogged down with taking the minutes and more worried about my own efficiency as a vice chair and supporting the chair in the heat of the business. I am not going to express an opinion either way. I'll be abstaining because of my working relationship with both senators. And further, I did not answer this question because I wasn't aware of the censure before reading the agenda for today and seeing it obviously on last week's agenda. And so, yeah, I don't want to be seen as just disregarding the fact that I did get asked a question and I was previously the vice chair. However, that was probably the most rapid fire sort of meeting I've been a part of to date as I've been a part of Senate. And so, like I stated, I was more worried about trying to be the best minute taker I could be rather than what was going on amongst the other senators in the meeting. And I know that it was mentioned in Chair Borges's speech that there were sentiments between both of us after the meeting happened, where we both expressed that there was side chatter that was annoying. Further than that, honestly, this was so many weeks ago. I cannot remember specific things that were said during the meeting or really after. And I come from a very honest place when I say that. And honestly, switching vice chair positions has been a lot of busyness as well, and just getting to know ORS and CRT. And so I haven't really meddled in this topic much. And as I previously stated, I didn't even know about this censure until last week's meeting. So thank you, that's all.
Chair Yalamanchili, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I would like to echo the sentiments of Chair Borges. I do believe that he is right when he says that he was disrespected as a chair. It can be argued that Senator Gell and Senator Borges could have resolved these issues internally, but Chair Borges did tell Chair Gell to keep to decorum, and she did not. And I don't know what else you can do at that point. CRT is a committee that deals with a lot of RSOs and a lot of money, and is one of the committees that is, in my opinion, probably the hardest to chair. So it makes sense when there's that Chair Borges feels disrespected as chair when there are repeated violations of decorum. The citations mentioned in the recommendation of censure, the rules that Chair Gell broke are clear. One of them says maintain a professional atmosphere during the Senate meeting, and repeated violations of the decorum can be considered as unprofessional, and a violation of also the Roberts Rules of Order can be considered disruptive behavior. I agree with the citations. I will be voting yes for the censure, and I encourage my fellow senators to do the same. Thank you.
Senator Mole, you have the floor.
May I direct a question towards Senator Roll and Senator Lerdo?
We're going to keep it in debate for now.
Okay. Then I have nothing to say.
All right. Chair Sabula.
So listening to all of this from both sides, it's just really muddy. And so I don't really think this has any merit just based on how confusing it is. And just echoing the statements of Senator Costas. We have really similar views on this, so I will be voting no.
Senator Spalding.
Move to vote if there are no other senators wishing to debate.
There are other senators wishing to debate, so I'll call on them. It's going to go Harrell, Foster, Maury, Patel.
I wanted to reiterate what I said earlier. In CRT, there's quite a few people talking. I will say Chair Borges is correct. Like, we do have decorum issues in CRT. However, I don't think they lie heavily on Chair Gal. I know Chair Cox had brought up having to call decorum on Chair Gal in this situation and how the speech was disrespectful, which I agree. It was very, very emotional. I will say I have witnessed firsthand that Chair Gal has been taking an emotional hardship because of this, not giving an excuse. But I do believe that in CRT, I want to say, I'm sure Chair Borges has as well. I can't speak for him on that, but I will be voting against this because from my experience in CRT, I don't see how it lies heavily on Chair Gal, lies heavily on all of us. And I know Chair Borges said that he will be holding us to that, and I hope you do. But I don't see how from 2 or 3 meetings that you can say that we have gone slower because of Chair Gal. But there is a decorum issue, I will say.
Lisa Foster.
I will only be voting in favor. I was originally going to vote no because there's no tangible evidence, but Vice Chair Robbins couldn't answer my question. I just asked a yes or no question. Chair Gar herself said she didn't believe she was the person who was having all the decorum issues. So I felt like, she could have just said no to that. So I will be voting in favor.
Senator Maury.
I just wanted to echo some of the other sentiments about like the disrespect in the speech. I think it was very emotionally charged. I wanted to bring up the fact that in the censure, the pro temp representative is mentioned once and not in support of this censure, only that in the instance she had to call decorum. So that is something that I wanted to bring to Senate's attention.
Patel, and then I'll take a motion.
I'll just be saying I'll probably be voting in favor of this censure is because I've been in LGR and CRT and both chairs have had to call decorum on her. She did speak over the LGR chair Urea at one point, and I feel like that was misrepresented. I also have seen not just side conversations in CRT, she also called on people to speak in CRT, and this censure isn't like a punishment. I feel like it's just an acknowledgement of her actions. And I feel like it could be like a learning process. Like if this is just one censure and it just says like, hey, you need to stop talking during committee meetings. If this passes, because as Senator Hurrell said, decorum is an issue. I feel like it's been brought up by 3 chairs now at this point. She's not learning her lesson. If this passes, I hope that she gets her act together and just stops having sidebar conversations or comments during meetings of caucuses or committees. And motion to vote.
There's been a motion to vote on the censure. Are there any objections? Chair Holmes, is that an objection?
It was debate, but if I cannot do debate, then I won't object, if that makes sense.
I already asked for objection, so are you objecting to the motion?
Yes.
You withdraw? Patel? Yes. All right, Chair Holmes.
So am I doing on why my objection, or am I doing debate? Just a question asked. Huh?
Debate.
Okay. I will be voting in favor of this censure because I think it's just pretty clear. Chair Gal couldn't answer a lot of the straightforward questions, and just hearing the repeated behavior in LJR is just a little bit of alarming. And I want to echo the sentiments of Chair Patel that this isn't a strict punishment. It's just, believe it's an acknowledgement of the actions of the senator as well. Chair Gill does hold a leadership position here in Senate, and we have to hold our leadership positions accountable just like regular senators. And decorum is something that is very important that she herself does mention is important in her own committees. And I think that if she can't hold, she needs to hold decorum in others' committees, and basically needs to hold others accountable, needs to hold herself accountable before she holds other people accountable in her own committee. So I will be voting in favor of this censure.
Senator Ferguson.
Present and voting.
So noted at 7:41 p.m. I'll take a motion. Temple.
Move to vote.
There's been a motion to vote on the censure. Are there any objections? Seeing none, we're now voting procedures on the censure. Still waiting on some of y'all to vote. With a vote count of 17 to 14 to 9, the censure passes, and I will issue the censure within the next 15 academic days. Chair Cox.
I move that we recess for 5 minutes, as this was an emotionally intense last hour for several people.
There's been a motion to recess for 5 minutes. Any objections? You withdraw?
No.
All right, we're in pro con. For the objection, we'll get 1 minute. Senator Richard, you have 1 minute.
We just have a lot of confirmations. I think we need to utilize that time.
Chair Cox.
That's why I only said 5 minutes. I know, but I know we have so much to do, but also I think several people have like a right to be upset and they need time to calm down.
Right, we're now voting procedures on pro con. 4 is for the objection, which is Senator Richard. Against is for the motion, which was Chair Cox. Give Bertie just 1 second.
Madam Speaker, I'm sorry I'm speaking out of turn. Could you remind us?
No one speaks.
I just didn't know which one was pro and con.
So we're voting on pro con. Ignore the resolution 5401. 4 is for the objection, which is Richard, and then against or con is Chair Cox. With a vote count of 19 to 19 to 5. A recess for 3 minutes. I'll reconvene this meeting at 7:47. 6:48. I'm sorry, I'm a minute late. Senator Spalding.
Hi, okay, so I have a point of inquiry, and maybe this will be better answered by Pro Tem Cerisi, but are we still doing pro temp? Because I thought that was kind of, we were just gonna do like the debate, so I'm just confused of what's going on with ProCon.
That was something that was just suspended for the last meeting to kind of be a trial run, if that answers your question.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. All right. SBA committee report, Chair Salerno.
Good evening, everyone. We are so excited to welcome 5 new members to SBA. Thank you all for being so engaged in our conversation. We're really appreciative of your time and your commitment. D-Like Wanjin created a database of legislation that pertains to any form of advocacy. Vice Chair Anderson and I will begin to review it thoroughly next week. SBA decided that since we cannot control or direct formula supply, the best way that we can support our students is by supporting the needs of campus entities and providing information. We will be gathering resources and information for UCF students who are parents to add to the UCF website. We will be reviewing the SBA idea feedback and concern form next week at our meeting on Tuesday, 3 p.m. if anyone would like to join. I would also like to remind everyone that our job as senators is to amplify unheard voices, not speak for them. Active listening and effective communication are crucial aspects of advocacy. Before you write legislation, make sure that you're not only doing ample research regarding the matter, discussing your legislation, but also make sure that you're reaching out to different populations that it affects. I am more than happy to talk to anyone one-on-one with senators regarding any proclamations or resolutions that will potentially go through SBA. Thank you.
Any questions for Chair Salerno? Seeing none, thank you, Chair Salerno. Confirmations. Chair Gell, if you'd like to introduce the appointments.
Sure. Would you like me to introduce them one by one or just introduce them?
Yes, so you'll be introducing them to come up to the podium and speak.
Awesome. So we're going to start with our first confirmation tonight, Chief of Staff, Brandon Greenaway.
Does someone want to make a motion on time, or do y'all want me to? McClellan?
Motion for 5-minute speeches, 15-minute debate, questioning and 15-minute debate.
There's been a motion for 5-minute speeches, 15-minute questioning, 15-minute debate. Are there any objections? Seeing none. Mr. Greenaway, you will have 5 minutes whenever you're ready.
Also, am I on? Okay, awesome. Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. My name is Brandon Greenaway. Hello, everyone here, everyone on Zoom. I am so excited to have this opportunity to talk to you about my appointment in the position as Chief of Staff. So a little bit about me. I just finished my sophomore year, so I'm going into my junior year here at UCF. I have a double major in media management and political science on a pre-law track. Some of my other involvement includes the President's Leadership Council, the Dean's Leadership Council in the Burnett Honors College, as well as a team leader in the Honors Symposium class, also in the Burnett Honors College. And also last year, I served as the Academic Affairs Coordinator of Student Government, as well as the Chair of the Scholarship Committee, which I think has really prepared me going into this role here. A little bit about last year, I successfully advocated for a 24-hour library that's starting as a pilot program in the fall. I hosted monthly Monday mental health break events to allow students to de-stress during their busy school day. I hosted cram for the exam events to also, allow students to de-stress prior to their finals period. In terms of events, I've hosted both successful events and also events that weren't as successful. So I really hope to bring that mindset going into this year, really being able to help the coordinators and assist them when it comes to planning their own events and programming. As well, I served as on various committees as the student voice in a room full of faculty, which started as it was very daunting at first. But I've really kind of gained that experience talking to administration and working with them on a professional level. Now, in terms of the Chief of Staff position, my biggest responsibility is working with President Lopez and really serving as an advisor to her, as well as helping with her with appointments to all student government positions. A big piece of my role this year that I want to focus on is cross-branch collaborations. So that is really kind of being the main point of contact for everyone throughout student government, whether that's senators, justices, members of the election commission. I want them to know that they can kind of go to me if they have questions, concerns, kind of like an open door policy, even though, I wouldn't have an office, but, just an open door policy where I know that people can, just approach me. I hope to be that approachable person that people can talk to. I do want to meet regularly with the ILA, the ELA, the deputy pro temps, judicial assistants, just so that members, obviously all the branch heads meet, but those right below the branch heads to kind of keep them on the same page, make sure that everyone knows what's going on and really ensure constant communication throughout all of student government. Another big role would be overseeing the Division of Student Affairs, which I really think my role as a coordinator last year has prepared me for, to be able to assist students on a one-on-one basis. Some coordinators might be better at planning events while others are better at completing initiatives. So I really think my experience last year has prepared me to assist them one-on-one. In my proposal, you could see a milestone system that I'm hoping to introduce with the cabinet this year, just to kind of keep them on track, as well as kind of holding accountability. I know as a coordinator going into your position, sometimes as a sophomore, it's one of your first big leadership positions. You don't know where to start. So I think kind of having those one-on-one meetings and breaking down, these are some steps you can take to accomplish these initiatives would really set the coordinators up for success. And then finally, a big piece of my role this year is I want to boost cabinet morale. I want to make sure that everyone is, happy coming to work, wants to be involved in the cabinet, and is really to have a positive work environment. I want to, 60 days in, ask members of the cabinet, how are we doing as the administration? So what can President Lopez do to improve? What can Vice President Martinez do to improve? What can I do to better support you and your needs to be successful this year? And then also, handling situations effectively, not allowing conflicts to kind of go on and on and on and turning into bigger issues.
1 minute remaining.
As well as celebrating members of cabinet through their kind of various successes, whether that's inside student government or outside. And I yield the rest of my time. Thank you very much.
We're now in line for questioning. Just so everyone is aware, I'm not going to allow any questions to be asked that were already asked during E&A. So please read through the minutes and make sure you're not asking something that was already asked. Senator Moll.
Motion to reduce question time and debate time to 10 minutes each.
There's been a motion to reduce the question and debate time to 10 minutes. Any objections?
I object. I also object.
Do you withdraw?
I do.
All right, we'll keep it at 15. Almanar.
I wanted to make it 5-minute speeches, 5-minute questioning, 5-minute debate, because we wouldn't get through all the confirmations if we didn't do it that way. I did that.
We're just gonna keep it as it is. The more time I feel like we're spending on it is time that we could be questioning. So we're in line for questioning. Any questions for the appointment? Richard.
Hi, Brandon. What factors do you find most important when evaluating candidates for student government?
I think it really has to be having that passion and that drive for servant leadership. I think having so much experience really isn't that important. I think everyone can really learn, especially, coming into these intro level positions where they have that opportunity to be mentored by other higher figures of student government and really have that opportunity to learn. I think it's really all about, a person's drive and their work ethic, and that can kind of really take them the long way.
Any other questions? Salerno.
What process do you intend to apply to keep everyone in cabinet accountable for not only their roles, but also their actions?
Yeah, I think an honest way to keep everyone accountable is just to really have check-ins and have one-on-ones. I want people to know that, you can trust me with personal things that might be going on, either that's inside work or outside of work. I want to be that trusted figure that, if I hear about a conflict going on, I want to kind of deal with it before it becomes a much bigger issue that would make it harder for people to, complete their jobs and do good work completing all these initiatives.
Any other questions? Foster McClellan.
All right, Brandon, you talked about inter-branch relations a lot, and if confirms this position tonight, I would love to work with you. So I'm kind of curious on what you want to do with our branch, specifically the legislative branch.
Yeah, I think that a lot of coordinators within cabinet, as well as, directors, have a lot of initiatives that kind of go hand in hand with a lot of the stuff that Senate is working on. So I think it's really just being that person that connects. I mean, for example, the first thing that comes to mind is, the governmental affairs coordinator and the GAP chair are going to be working very closely together. So kind of being that connecting person to put them in touch so they know, you guys are working on very similar things. You obviously, align what you're doing. So we're on the same page here. Again, like, the diversity and inclusion coordinators in a lot of caucuses, making sure they are in touch to ensure, again, everyone's on the same page.
McClellan.
In the E&A minutes, you were asked a question regarding Senate appointments, to which you responded that you have to discuss with the presidents on if you would allow Senate to sit in. Have you since discussed this, and do you have an answer for this?
Yeah, that hasn't been a full conversation that I've had yet with President Lopez. I haven't been really confirmed to the position, so I don't really want to be working so much, without being actually in the position. That being said, I think, again, in terms of appointments, it's something that could be, a work in progress. I do want to try a lot of different things and also, have that conversation with Senate kind of before I begin that process. Having those one-on-one meetings with whoever's interested to ensure that obviously, everyone's voice is heard. But in the end, that is a decision that I would have to speak with President Lopez about.
We'll do Temple, then Yalamanchili. Chair Temple, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Good evening, Mr. Greenaway. Pleasure to see you here. You mentioned that you wanted to boost cabinet morale. I just wanted to get a gauge as to what strategies you have to raise cabinet's esprit de corps, should you be appointed to chief of staff.
Yes, of course. Thank you. I think with cabinet morale, it's really just connecting with members of cabinet on a personal level outside of, the professional workplace. I mentioned, and I think this would really be successful, is, 60 days within starting the position, I want to send out an anonymous form for people to be able to just be really honest. Like, how can we further support you? What can we do? Obviously, I only know what I know. So again, keeping that constant communication and really understanding what members of the executive cabinet need so I can further support them, I think is really important. And, celebrating members of the cabinet, their accomplishments. If they accomplish a big initiative, if they hosted a successful event, I am the type of person that I know, I like shout outs to be recognized, but not every member or not every person is like that. So, also understanding how does the member of the cabinet like to be recognized? So is that a shout out? Is that an email? Is that, a pat on the back? I don't know, just something that to, again, individualize the experience for everyone on cabinet to boost that morale. I think, obviously, again, just getting to know each other on a personal level, not just a professional level, to form, real relationships.
Yalamanchili, you have the floor, and then Borges.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It's a pleasure to meet you, Mr. Greenaway. And I just wanted to ask, has there been anything that went wrong in your time as student government under your watch? And if so, what was it? And how did you learn from it so that you can be a better student government agent and a good chief of staff?
Yes, thank you for that question. In terms of, me serving as a chief of staff in this upcoming year, I think that a lot of senators have probably recognized that last year's executive cabinet, there was a lot of division, tension, just not unity. And that is something that I do want to avoid this year. And again, I think, boosting cabinet morale, getting to know each other on a personal level would really kind of avoid that, as well as, if I hear of a potential conflict between two members of the cabinet, deciding the best way to handle that conflict, whether that's through mediation or, getting President Lopez involved if necessary, but, ending things before it becomes such a greater issue that people do not want to work with each other.
Chair Borges.
Yeah, so please stop me throughout if this isn't allowed. So it is to my understanding that during the E&A, you referenced that checks and balances need to be had between branches, specifically with the executive branch not allowing senators to be in Senate interviews as appointments are an executive power. So why does that check and balance not also apply to the judicial branch?
In terms of, you're mentioning the judicial interviews that are occurring next week?
From my knowledge, all the judicial interviews occur with the Chief Justice in attendance, but I'm not sure if that's completely correct.
So I'm going to say that falls under the duties of the president in executive cabinet, so we'll leave it to the president to answer at a different time. Yeah. Any other questions, Sarah?
What is one weakness that you think you could work on throughout the year?
I think that my greatest weakness is, trying to put too much on my plate, trying to, I mentioned this during the ENA meeting on Tuesday. When I first came to UCF, I really tried to get as involved as possible, joining as many activities and organizations that interested me, but maybe I didn't want to kind of stay involved with. I think, going into my junior year at UCF, I really want to put 100%, 110% into the organizations and the things that I am passionate about and things that I enjoy. So yeah.
Chair Sabula?
Hello, thank you for coming in. I just wanted to quiz you for a second. So which Senate committee do you need to, or which Senate committee meeting do you need to attend in regard to the advocacy agenda being approved for Day at the Capitol?
Yes, that is the GAP committee.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Boris?
Yeah, so first I want to apologize for that question. My bad. Are you able to elaborate on the timeline from application to appointment with students applying to Senate? I know you mentioned 2 weeks from applying to being interviewed, but what about after that?
Yeah, I think 2 weeks is a reasonable time frame to, look at the application and then offer them the interview if that is so necessary, and then interview them within that 2 weeks. And then I think after the interview, it would kind of be, reviewing the notes from that interview and reporting back to President Lopez regarding the appointment. So I don't really see a long time frame between the interview and the appointment.
Any other questions? Salerno, then McClellan.
How do you plan to collaborate with the Deputy Chief of Staff?
Yeah, that's something I'm really excited for, to kind of work with potentially Jennifer in that capacity. I think, just staying on the same page, we both are realistically the same role, just mirrors of each other, kind of with the president and vice president. So, staying on the same page, I think that starts with, either, tomorrow or next week, really sitting down and deciding how we both work well together and how we want to stay in communication to make sure that nothing gets lost in translation. And I think it's also, supporting each other in each other's endeavors. I know the Deputy Chief of Staff is responsible for outreach to other campuses, SGLC. So in any way that I could support the Deputy Chief of Staff in those, initiatives, I hope to do so. And then any way the Deputy Chief of Staff can support me and what I have to do, I expect that as well.
McClellan, then Yalamanchili, then I'll take a motion.
I'm motioning to move to debate if there is no other questions.
Chair Yalamanchili, I know your hand went down. Did you have a question?
I did, but I figured that it wasn't relevant. My bad.
Okay. There's been a motion to move to debate. Are there any objections? Martinez, is that an objection?
Yeah, I just have a question.
Do you withdraw? All right, Martinez.
Yeah, I just want to ask, has there been any big problem that you've noticed in student government or just in the campus in general that you would want to use your position to help solve?
I think in terms of, again, like cross-branch collaborations, just ensuring that there is strong communication without. I think I'm a very upfront person, and I think just ensuring that conversations that need to be had are being had. And again, I speak about setting up those meetings with the ELA, ILA, Deputy Pro Temp Judicial Assistants, because sometimes the branch heads are busy dealing with a lot of the other stuff, a lot of the other responsibilities that they may have. So, just again, having an open line of communication, I think is crucial and will definitely improve this year.
Sir Foster, then Chair Cox.
I was going to motion to go to debate.
There's been a motion to go to debate. Are there any objections? Seeing none, we're now in debate. All right, it's going to go Richard, Foster, then Sarah.
Yes, I'm in favor of this. I'm highly in favor of this candidate. I think he has a very concrete plan. He's very cognizant of his environment, and he shows great reflection on himself and the agency. Yeah, I hope you can follow through with all your plans because they sound really good. And I particularly enjoy your SWOT analysis.
Is Foster next? Yep, Foster.
Yeah, I would like to echo the sentiments of Senator Richard. Also, I joined student government about in January, and one of the first committees I sat on was scholarship committee, which Brandon was chair of at the time, and he made it really inclusive and just easy to understand. And like Senator Richard said, he has really big plans for his position, and I just would love to see that happen, and I want to work with him. So I do highly encourage everybody to vote in favor.
Ms. Sarah.
I agree with both senators that have spoken. He seems strongly qualified in terms of leadership, and he has accomplished a good amount last year as an academic coordinator, it seems. Plus, during my time during the Student Government Leadership Council, I was able to see what many people in the executive branch were working on, and I saw that he was working pretty hard and got a lot done. So I support this as well.
Are there any dissenting opinions? I'll take a motion. Foster.
Move the vote.
There's been a motion to vote on the confirmation of Brandon Greenaway as Chief of Staff. Any objections?
Technically, it has to be the ENA chair or vice chair that makes the motion.
Chair Gall.
Move to vote on Brandon Greenaway as Chief of Staff.
There's been a motion to vote. Any objections? Seeing none, we're now on voting procedures. With a vote count of 41 to 0 to 1, congratulations, Chief of Staff Greenaway.
Thank you.
We will now see Deputy Chief of Staff Jennifer Sobrino. Thank you.
Ms. Sabrino, you have 5 minutes when you're ready.
Awesome. Thank you. First and foremost, I just wanted to say thank you to ENA for your time and consideration this past Tuesday. Good evening, Senate. My name is Jennifer Sabrino, and I'm the appointee for the position of Deputy Chief of Staff. I'm a first-gen rising junior in event management and minoring in international and global studies. I'm incredibly grateful, humbled, and excited for this opportunity and ecstatic to share my story and initiatives with you all. My story is simple. My parents immigrated from Brazil in search for a better life to start a family. They wanted to provide their future children with opportunities they were never given the chance to pursue. As the youngest in my family and the first to go to college, I set big goals for myself to accomplish. As time went on, I realized it takes a village to reach those goals and aspirations. I felt as if I had, oh, sorry, I skipped the part. It also takes many failures. I chose UCF because it instantly felt like home. I felt as if I had endless opportunities to choose from. Everyone I met along the way had a different reason they decided on UCF. They had struggles I could never understand, and some had struggles I experienced personally. Some didn't have a reason, and they just came to school because they felt as if they had to. Listening to student stories made me even more curious and eager to try and make this university even better than how I found it. What can I do to make the student experience better is a question I always ask myself. After various involvement within UCF, I decided to go back to my roots in student government. Every experience I've had so far at UCF has prepared and led me here. Over the last year, I was part of the SGLC and ELC programs. I learned a lot about myself, who I want to be, and the type of leader I want to be. I had the opportunity to lead the Night Bond Committee, where we created a team of over 32 SG members across all branches and raised $4,353 together for the Orlando Health Arnold Palmer Hospital for Children. As the Deputy Chief of Staff, my main priority is to assist Vice President Martinez and the Chief of Staff on special projects and initiatives regarding the student body and the administration. I'll be responsible for student outreach efforts across all UCF campuses, working closely as a liaison with Rosen Downtown and Lake Nona. I will also be a coordinator for the SGLC and ELC programs, mentoring the next group of student leaders. I will ensure that all tasks and responsibilities are completed with efficiency, integrity, transparency, humility, and with the student body needs at the forefront of my decisions. I want to be a part of a team with the same values, aspirations, and end goal to help ignite and lead the change for a brighter tomorrow here at UCF. I yield my time.
We're now in line for questioning. We'll do Temple, Borges, and then Salerno. Temple, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Good evening, Ms. Sabrino. It's a pleasure to see you out here again. So as Deputy Chief of Staff, you are very well aware that you will be tasked with coordinating with the internal legislative assistant and the external judicial assistant to organize SGLC and ELC. So in that capacity, what do you think you could do to improve either of those programs should you become Deputy Chief of Staff as somebody who has graduated from the ELC program yourself?
Thank you for that question. Can I have just a second to think? Okay, I can answer the question. According to my proposal, I did outline some of the things that I would like to accomplish as the SGLC or as one of the SGLC and ELC coordinators. So definitely, first step is I want to get to know the other coordinators that I will be working with and how they envision the program and what they want to see and accomplish together is definitely a first step. But as of now, all of my initiatives and what I would like to see for SGLC are in my proposal.
Chair Borges.
Thank you. So I know one of our concerns during ENA was that while you seemed like an extremely qualified candidate when it came to SGLC and ELC, there was a slight lack of experience with the downtown Rosen and Lake Nona campuses you have to work with when it comes to your outreach responsibilities. Since ENA, have you tried to visit those campuses or at least look into them a little more to familiarize yourself a little further?
Yeah. I have not visited the campuses because I was working the last 2 days, but I did in fact do more research. So I do appreciate that you guys, did check me on that and made sure that I did my research and I looked into it more. Yeah, I definitely did my research. So thank you for that question.
Salerno, then Anderson.
Part of your job is to reach out to other campuses, and you mentioned Lake Nona, Rosen, and downtown. Do you plan on doing any work with the satellite campuses?
Yes, absolutely. I would love to reach out to them and get to know them and work with them better and see what they would like to see from main campus and SG.
Anderson.
Just to piggyback off of Chair Burgess over there, can you tell me what kind of research that you did and what's something that you learned doing that research?
Yes, absolutely. So one of the things was I mentioned that I would like to see both Rosen and downtown campus lives to be, what's the right word? To be seen as agencies, and I realized that was the incorrect term. Sorry, I wrote it down. It's ex officio members, which means they just sit in on the council or the ADSPE committee and they just listen. And I think that's a great way for them, to branch out and meet all the other agencies on campus and to make connections with them, as well as other things that I did to improve on my, my knowledge on the other campuses. Was I spoke to members that I work with at Career Services, and they did mentor me on, Rosen, downtown, Lake Nona, because they do work with those campuses as well. So they definitely provided me with the knowledge that I was lacking at the house committee.
Senator Richard.
If you could describe yourself in a few words, like your character, what would those be?
I would say I'm passionate, I'm empathetic, and I'm determined.
Vice Chair Castellan.
Okay, apologies in advance as I'm not able to turn my camera on right now, but hi Jennifer. How do you plan to maintain student satisfaction among the other campuses that you will be working with? And how do you plan to keep track of student satisfaction?
You said how I would keep track of student satisfaction in other campuses?
Yes, sorry.
No, no problem. I was just making sure I heard it correctly. Thank you for your question. Definitely working with, the student leaders and administrators at those other campus entities, because they are the main point of contact for all of those students and they know what's best for them and they know what is needed at those campuses. So definitely that would be my first step, is reaching out to those student leaders and those administrators for what they would like to see, what they would like to improve, et cetera, and making sure that their students are getting the experience that they need. As well as, working with the senators for Rosen, oh, sorry, I thought I heard something. Working with the Rosen senators here as well and trying to collaborate and see what they would like to see as well.
Chair Holmes.
Hi, Jennifer. Thanks for being here. I just wanted to ask a question regarding your lessons for Student Government Leadership Council. What's something on here that you have experienced as I'm sorry if I get this wrong. If you were in SGLC, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, that was a clarifying question for the question I'm going to ask. So what's something in your lesson plans that you have experienced as a SGLCer that you implemented in here, and how would you kind of make it your own and create more impact?
Thank you for your question. One thing I learned in SGLC that I want to implement into the next program would definitely be confidence. There's something that I learned a few years ago while attending a leadership camp. It's called the what if monster. And essentially the what if monster is a little voice in your head that constantly tells you you're not good enough, you can't accomplish things, etc. It's just things that, knock you down as a leader. And that was one lesson that really did stick to me, and it still sticks to me today. And so I definitely want to implement that what if monster story that I learned and turn it into an activity or turn it into something that can positively impact those SGLCers.
Chair Gill.
Move to debate.
There's been a motion to go to debate. Are there any objections? Seeing none, we're now in debate. Vice Chair Castellan.
So I just want to say I was personally in SGLC last year with Jennifer and also ELC. And with that, I was in the Nighthon committee that she took the initiative to lead, I believe, in the first month of SGLC, like when we were all new to it. And throughout the whole year, I could say wholeheartedly that Jennifer really put her blood, sweat, and tears into Nighthon. Like I haven't seen anyone like lead like as efficiently as I've seen her. Like honestly, it was a tireless effort that I saw her pour into Nighthon, and obviously that is a very good effort that UCF is already holding. So I can testify, and I am positive that I know Jennifer will be able to commit to this role if chosen, and I think it will be a great addition to our student government executive branch.
We'll go Holmes and then Temple.
I will be speaking highly in favor of this candidate, as they have, not just because they have had experience in these programs, but they are very organized. They seem very dedicated to ensuring that these programs are ran smoothly and create a great impact on these students. And as we've heard from Vice Chair Castellan, this individual has created an impact on individuals around them. And therefore, I will be voting in favor. And if confirmed, I can't wait to see what they will do in the future.
Chair Temple.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So I'd like to echo the sentiments of both Chair Holmes and Vice Chair Castellan. I cannot think of honestly anybody more qualified to this position than Ms. Sabrino, because I myself was also a part of her SGLC and ELC class last year. And I've just seen her pour so much time and effort into all the events that she's had attended and that she helped with. And she was, from what I can hear, I was not a part of Nighthon committee, but I heard that she had put so much time and effort into that committee. And it actually was, I believe, one of the most successful committees out of SGLC, not to throw shade at the rest of the SGLC committees. But there is a reason why I believe she won best committee at our SGLC banquet. So, and of course, she had done, and of course, I've seen her work very closely with the former Deputy Chief of Staff, Ms. Sadiatis Martinez, the current Vice President. So I have full faith in her that she will take the lessons she learned from her time at SGLC and put them to good use in this position.
Are there any dissenting opinions? Chair Gill.
Move to vote on Jennifer Sobrino as Deputy Chief of Staff.
There's been a motion to vote on the confirmation of Jennifer Sobrino as the Deputy Chief of Staff. Are there any objections? Seeing none, we're now on voting procedures. With a vote count of 38 to 0 to 2, congratulations, Deputy Chief of Staff Salerno.
Thank you.
We will now be seeing the confirmation of Caitlin Moore as Attorney General.
Ms. Moore, you have 5 minutes when you're ready.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. For those of you that I haven't had the pleasure of meeting yet, my name is Caitlin Moore. I'm a rising senior here at UCF studying psychology on the neuroscience track with a minor in pre-law. A few months ago, I went to go visit a local art gallery, and I came across 2 striking paintings by the same artist. The first one depicted a beautiful blue house with a winding dirt road, and the one right next to it was the mystique of a Florida sunset, with all of its beautiful colors dancing across its waves. And as I looked at these 2 paintings, I was instantly taken back to the kind of rural settlement that used to be like a second home to me, my grandparents' house. Growing up in the Lake Nona area, my parents and I resided no more than a 15-minute bike ride to my grandparents' house. And I did not take that for granted. My grandparents taught me what it meant to live a life you can be proud of. And if they had a motto, it would be this: love well, do good, live simply, and you will acquire the love of simply doing good. Growing up, their philosophy inspired me, and it has stayed with me for as long as I can remember. And I carry those same values with me today and throughout my time here at UCF. And while that house may have a for sale sign, the values and lessons and gifts that they gave me are beyond monetary measure. I'm motivated by a sense of gratitude, which feeds into a spirit of giving back. I feel indebted to the inspiring people, brilliant professors, and amazing experiences that I've had the privilege to have here at UCF. From joining Student Government Leadership Council my freshman year to my most recent role as Assistant Supervisor of Elections, I am truly passionate about what student government can do and what we as at large can accomplish for the students at this university. My freshman year, before I even began taking classes at UCF, I applied to be a part of the Student Government Leadership Council. And I can still remember so vividly the day I walked in for that interview. I was both terrified and excited at the same time. I had no idea where my journey in student government would lead me. And when I walked into that room and I sat at that conference table and I looked out and I saw all of these cabinet members and branch heads, I was in absolute awe of the inspiring student leaders I saw before me. And the one thought I can remember having so vividly during that interview was, I want to be in one of those chairs one day. I want to be a part of the Student Government Executive Council. And here I am today, and it is such an honor to speak to all of you tonight. I further developed the skills that I have gained through student government and other parts of campus, through my involvement as the Vice President of the UCF Moot Court team, as well as the Executive Vice President of the UCF Panhellenic Council. Through those roles in Moot Court, I have to argue constitutional issues and debate both sides of that issue, and do that in a way that will appease the judges that we are presenting in front of. We create mock Supreme Court arguments, and we do that in a competitive manner. And in the UCF Panhellenic Council, I'm responsible for all of our governing documents, including amending our bylaws and our recruitment rules to ensure that all the people coming through the Panhellenic Council recruitment have the best possible experience. I also had 2 internships in Washington, D.C. last year, where I lived for 8 months. Both were on Capitol Hill. I did one with a consulting firm and one with the U.S. congressman. Through that, I learned a lot about the legislative process, how a bill, becomes law, the type of issues that arise on the Hill, types of research that is required for, a congressman to go on the floor and debate an issue, and all the behind-the-scenes workings of a Capitol Hill office. I'm confident that my statutory knowledge, intellectual curiosity towards the legislative and judicial processes, and relentless passion for serving the greater good will allow me to serve above expectations in my role as Attorney General.
1 minute remaining.
If I am to be confirmed tonight, I'll be the first female Attorney General since the 2014 administration. It would be an absolute honor to serve the student body as your next Attorney General. I look forward to a brighter tomorrow, And I thank you again for your time. I yield the rest of my time.
We're now in line for questioning. We'll start with Becerra, then we'll do Sabula, and then Yalamanchili.
Hello. Your position, as every cabinet position, I'm sure, will consist of heavy work. Balance in all areas of life is important for success. How will you deal with the applied pressure in order to succeed in your position?
Yes, thank you for your question. So I have a lot of experience with, working under a lot of pressure, working on my feet, thinking very quickly. That is one of the main skills that we have to be successful. For example, on the moot court team, where we prepare our argument, we do our research, we study all the constitutional issues, and we read a bunch of case law, and then we go in front of a panel of judges. It can be anywhere from 3 to 9 individuals, most of whom are practicing attorneys themselves. Some of them are federal judges, at the New York State of Court of Appeals. I had a judge from there once, or sometimes they're law students, but they're able to ask us any question under the sun, and we have to answer it professionally and confidently, and back it up with facts and with case law. And there's a lot of pressure that comes with that. And so, I do that for fun on my free time. So I have a lot of experience with working under pressure, and I really welcome new challenges. They really excite me, and I really like to set big goals and accomplish those. And I will do the exact same thing in my role as Attorney General if I'm confirmed tonight.
Chair Sabula.
Hi, I have 2 questions. Can I go ahead and do both of them?
You may.
Okay, so my first one is, could you recite how to format opinions as an Attorney General?
Yes, so the Attorney General, when making an opinion, the first thing that you're going to do upon request of receiving the opinion is, first and foremost, go back to the statutes, read what the statutes say so that you can understand, the issue at hand and how to apply the facts that were given to you to what the statutes say, as that is, the main job of Attorney General in writing opinions. The next thing you need to do is you need to make sure that you address the person who asked the question within the opinion so that it's clear what this opinion is addressing. Then you want to make sure that the questions presented are clearly laid out within the opinion so that it's evident, it's clear when you're reading it right up in the beginning what question is sought to be answered by this opinion, so that we're not just going on about facts and what to do without it going back to a central question. And then from there, the opinion will go on to elaborate concisely as possible what the right recommendation or action would be to follow from this question, and back that up with statutes. So it kind of follows like, here are the facts, here's the issue, here are the rules that would apply to the said situation. The Attorney General then does an analysis of that, and then we'll briefly conclude that and make sure that it goes out to all relevant parties.
Okay, thank you. That was correct. Sorry to quiz you. And I'm not sure if this is an inappropriate question to ask or not. So Speaker Custis, please interrupt me. But can I ask your personal, or like how you define feminism?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear that last thing you said.
Sorry, how do you define feminism?
I'm going to say that the question isn't pertinent to the role in particular, but if you have another question you want to ask, I'll allow it.
Okay, thank you. I have nothing else to ask.
Okay, we'll go Yalamanchili, then Temple, then Cox.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I also have 2 questions. May I ask them both?
You may.
Thank you. Mrs. Moore, you mentioned about your experience working in the staff of a congressman in Capitol Hill, which is obviously a position of a very political nature. As Attorney General, what would you do to ensure that your personal political beliefs and ideology do not get in the way of your job as an Attorney General, to ensure that every decision you make is done in a fair and impartial way instead of driven by ideology?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you very much for that question. That is absolutely a wonderful question. So first and foremost, when I'm acting as Attorney General, I am representing an entity that is larger than myself, right? So I know how to separate Caitlin, personal Caitlin and the opinions that I have for my professional job as Attorney General. And when I act in the role of Attorney General, when I'm issuing opinions, when I'm giving interpretations or advising a student, for example, that is all going to come from a legal standpoint, from an objective, and the point of an objective onlooker is not my role as Attorney General to start advocating, on behalf of the student or advocating on behalf of an issue, regardless of how I might feel personally in that issue. And I do have firsthand experience in doing this. Again, going back to what I've spoken about with moot court, we had to deal with my first year, we had a case that was written about whether or not art is speech and whether or not an artist could be compelled to make banners or to make stationery for a wedding that he did not want to support or not, right? And so a lot of people on the team had their own personal opinions or biases about what they might believe. But when I'm making those arguments, when I'm looking at that, I have to be objective. I have to say, okay, what does the case law say? What does the precedent establish in this case? And then how does that analysis apply to the case at hand? It's not about whether or not I agree with it, whether or not I think that the precedent that was laid out is good or bad or should have never happened. It's simply about what does it say and then how do I apply the statutes to that? So with that in mind, I'm fully prepared to remove, my personal opinions, my personal biases that I might have when I'm acting in a professional manner. Obviously it's human nature that we're all going to have opinions. We're all going to have biases. I think I'd be pretty hard pressed to try to find somebody who does not have an opinion about something, right? We all are human beings. And I think that's part of what makes the human population beautiful and what contributes to that. And also, and on that same note, I think it's important to welcome a diversity of thought and diversity of opinion in the workplace as well and within student government. So if I have to advise a student per se, and they have different thoughts about something, that is not going to hinder my ability to still be an impartial advisor to them. Again, as I know how to separate personal from professional. And my philosophy when advising students as a judicial advisor would be to do so from a place of understanding, a place of knowledge, and a place of kindness. I will not be stacking assumptions about anything. It's just about how can I help this individual? What do our governing documents say that will allow me to accomplish the goal of serving that student to the best of my ability, regardless of anything personal, that I might have. Because when I'm acting as Attorney General, I'm acting within the purview that I have and the power that I have as a student government agent.
Thank you. Now I have a second question. Do you think the opinions of the Attorney General, the Office of the Attorney General, which is an office of the executive branch, on the actions taken by members of the legislative branch, the Senate, do you think that these opinions are binding on the Senate? And can the Senate choose to disregard those opinions if they feel that it is fit to do so?
So that question is kind of one that has a complicated answer. So I'll try to make it as simple as I possibly can for you guys tonight. So in the past, attorney generals have had the ability of voiding documents that they interpreted to be filed inadequately. So with that regard, under that sort of view of it, the short answer is yes. However, that doesn't mean that opinions just override everything or anything. So there are caveats to it, but the short answer is yes, just with certain caveats to it that I would be more than happy to sit down and explain with anybody one-on-one in greater detail.
All right, the order is going to go Temple, Cox, Domino, Holmes, and Foster. With time permitting, we have about 6.5 minutes left. Chair Temple, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I did have two questions, but for the sake of time, I will just ask the one. Good evening, Ms. Moore. It's a pleasure to see you once again. So as Attorney General, you have to advise students on a number of different statutes and different rules. And that's quite taxing for anybody, really. So how have you prepared yourself in advising these students, both in terms of figuring out the statutes as well as like mentally, in case there are certain cases that have quite a controversial tinge to it?
Yes, absolutely. So to answer how I've prepared to advise students, I've read every single statute. I've read some of them multiple times now. I've taken notes on every single one, including finding places to offer recommendations to make them a little bit less inefficient or just to clear up some gray areas so that student government can function a little bit more effectively. So I've already started to look at statutes, take a deep dive at all of those, what they say. I've written down areas that I want to look back at to make sure I fully understand. And also when it comes to, advising students, if I'm pulling from a statute and there is something that's ambiguous, because statutes have ambiguity built into them for a reason, and that needs to be respected. But if I need to interpret something in a specific case, for example, then I will definitely go back to Black Law's Dictionary, which is in Title II, where it stipulates that we would use Black Law's Dictionary to interpret things in statutes. So I would definitely go there to make sure I understand what I'm reading properly so that I can advise this student from the best possible place. And then as far as just overall, mentally, how am I preparing for this? I am extremely passionate about the law. I'm extremely passionate about serving students. And frankly, I think that the experiences that I have garnered through my time, in college and in high school, I started doing internships with judges at courthouses on Capitol Hill when I was in high school. So I really feel like I've kind of been custom tailored for this position, if you will. I've gotten a lot of experiences that have helped me to understand reading complex legal jargon, applying those to novel situations, and figuring out the best path forward. So I think that I am fully prepared to tackle this position, and I'm also extremely excited and honored to have the opportunity to do so if confirmed tonight.
Chair Cox.
May I ask all three of my questions?
You may. Let's just keep it quick.
At what point does an opinion become hate speech?
So that is, definitely a question it's definitely an interesting question. I would say that that's a difficult one to just kind of answer, out here, because I really think it does depend on kind of the context of what we're speaking of. So obviously under the First Amendment, we all have a right to freedom of speech, and hate speech is something that even the courts have had to go back and forth debating, like what exactly is hate speech, what isn't hate speech. So that really is a situational thing. If you have a more if I could sit down with you and talk with you a little bit more about specific things that maybe you're concerned about, you're thinking about, then I could answer that a little bit more directly. But I would say overall, I just have to see some words, some speech before I could really determine if it was hate speech or not, if that makes sense. Sorry for not giving maybe the most straightforward answer that you're looking for.
Thank you. How will you balance the freedom of speech with anti-discrimination?
Yeah, so that's another excellent question as well. So if I approach this from, a legal standpoint, when we're looking at whether or not something is discrimination or whether it falls under free speech, there are levels of scrutiny that get applied depending on what we're dealing with. So again, it would really be a situational based thing. I think that it is important to uphold our constitutional rights to freedom of speech, and you are, allowed to say what you want to, even if it is offensive. Like, offensive speech is protected speech. However, by that same token, if we go back to the golden rule, it does lay out a list of protected classes, right? And there is not to be discrimination against those protected classes. And I understand that fully. And I understand that it is a delicate balancing act. So it will have to be a situational thing. If somebody wants to express an opinion and somebody else just happens to disagree with that, that's freedom of speech. However, if they're using that speech in a manner that is creating, a hostile environment to the point where somebody feels uncomfortable doing their job, they're not able to do their job, there's bullying. I do not stand for bullying. So if there's anything like that going on, I'm not going to brush that under the rug, and I'm not afraid to address those issues before they get big, or to address those issues head on, if that makes sense.
Thank you. And finally, can you please name an impeachable offense?
An impeachable offense, yes, if there is, a violation that's falling under our code of ethics, for example, under Title 11, where somebody is failing to uphold, a number of statutory duties, and they've already gone through getting their warning, talking through it, then an impeachment would be able to follow, given the context of what's going on. Have to look at the situation that's happening and then kind of determine from there the best course of action. So there's impeachments, there's non-compliances, there's censures. So I have to take a look at particularly what's going on and the record of what's been happening, and then from there figure out the best course of action forward.
We have a minute left. Senator Domino.
Really quickly, what is your stance on integrity and accountability, and how will you apply it to your job and your duties?
Yes, so integrity and accountability. Those are two main tenets of the Office of the Attorney General. If you're an Attorney General and you don't have integrity, you don't have accountability, I think the position renders itself nearly useless, right? I mean, if the student body, the student government agents can't trust the word of the Attorney General, can't trust the opinions that are being put out, then they're just going to, it's a lot of things about the entire position are just going to kind of crumble around it. So integrity is of utmost importance to me, being an objective onlooker, being impartial, making sure that whenever I put an opinion out, I am confident in what it says. That is extremely important to me. I take a lot of pride in my work ethic, and I will make sure that when I'm producing an opinion, when I'm giving an interpretation, that I have done my due diligence to ensure that it is the best interpretation, the best opinion that it possibly can be.
The allotted time for questioning has elapsed, so we're now in debate. We'll do Richard, Becerra. Richard, then Becerra. Richard, you have the floor.
I believe this candidate's experiences testify well for her potential in this role. She proves to be a very analytical personality type. And anyway, I think she proves herself very well. Oh, and she's done her homework. She doesn't, she's all around very well-rounded, and I think we should vote in favor.
Vice Chair Becerra.
I too will be supporting, since she has very strong qualifications and seems very knowledgeable in what she's talking about and what she's getting into. And on top of that, she also seemed very calm and collected in when she was talking about, which is very important in the position, to always remain calm, cool, and always be in the present moment and understand what is going on. So I will definitely be voting for her.
Sabila.
I believe Chair Yelloman Chili had his hand up before me.
Yeah, I just picked on you because I know you haven't debated tonight. So, but I'll call on Yalman Chile.
You can call on Senator Sabila first.
All right, someone go. Sabila.
So I think that this candidate is very knowledgeable, but I was a bit confused listening to her speech. A lot of it, I was not sure what the relevancy of it. It was a very good speech. It was very well articulated, but I was very confused what the relevancy of it was to the position. And I don't know, maybe I'm just someone who gets confused easily, but I was just a bit confused. So I think I'm going to vote no on this candidate. I was just I'm just very unsure from all of that. So thank you.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I respectfully will not be voting for Mrs. Moore for a number of reasons. I don't believe that it is acceptable constitutionally that the opinions of an executive official can void the actions of a legislative body. For example, in the United States government, the Attorney General in the presidential cabinet cannot void the actions of the Congress. And I believe the same principle should apply to the student government here. I am unsure of Mrs. Moore's ability to remain fair and impartial and apolitical while carrying out her duties. I am also concerned with the statement that offensive speech is protected speech, because I feel it is very important for UCF to stick to the values of diversity and inclusion, and helping ensure that this campus is a safe, welcoming, and inclusive environment for everyone. And I know plenty of people in the LGBTQ minority, in the Black community, and other marginalized communities who have suffered from offensive speech. And I don't agree with the candidate in that such speech should be accepted because of a diversity of thought. I don't think a diversity of thought is relevant when people are actively being hurt. I will not be voting for Mrs. Moore. I encourage my fellow senators to do the same.
Chair Giles on a motion to vote. Okay, Chair Gall.
Hi, Senate. I first want to say that as ENA chair, the committee overwhelmingly was impressed by this candidate's information, her knowledge of the statutes, her knowledge of this position. I mean, I felt in that meeting that she represented herself well, and I still feel that to this day, to right now in this meeting. I think that she knows the material. I think that it was evident she knew what she was saying. While I understand and hear the concerns of senators worried about the potential of these incidents happening and wanting to ensure that offensive speech isn't protected in a way, I think that that's why there is a checks and balance system. And I think that that's why we as a legislative body do have that checks and balance system. I don't think that one answer on that is fair enough to dictate whether or not she is qualified for this position. I think she has immense qualifications, being able to defend both sides, whether or not you politically agree or disagree. I think the ability for her to be a part of, I think it was Moo Court. I think that stands for itself. I will be voting in favor. I really urge you all to vote in favor. I think that she would be an awesome attorney general. And like I said, ENA, we were thoroughly impressed. She got a unanimous vote of 8-0 to 0. And I think that that should stand for something.
We'll go Ferguson, then Foster, then Hall.
I would just say that I'm very impressed by her qualifications, and I will be voting yes.
Foster.
I was blown away in ENA, just like Chair Gal. However, I do hear concerns that my fellow senators do have, but this candidate did answer all the questions really well in ENA. Like, I don't think there was anybody else that could have come in there and answered all the questions that we asked, because we did ask some hard questions. So I do hear your concerns, but I will vote yes, strictly because I think she can do the job really well. And I encourage you to at least give her a chance. We have accountability in student government for a reason. And if you want to hold someone accountable, I'm definitely down to do that, but I will vote yes.
Chair Hall.
Yeah, so I just wanted to just comment more than voice my opinion one way or the other on the issue of impartiality that the nominee has. I personally respectfully disagree with the sentiment that the nominee cannot put their personal bias aside. I speak to this as someone who has had personal experience of concerns about my own political opinions and how that impacts the role that I occupy as GAP chair. I think it's unfair to judge someone based off of that. Now, I'll be clear, I have very different views from the nominee on a lot of different issues. I think that that's clear. But at the same time, if we feel that this nominee cannot be impartial about their political views, then I will happily step down as GAP chair, because I think it sets a very bad precedent to just assume that somebody, especially without seeing them in action, cannot put aside those differences. When it comes to some of these other questions, I think it's legitimate to talk about. But on that specific issue, I do need to push back on, because I think it sets a very dangerous precedent for anyone in the future who wants to get involved with student government that feels that their own political beliefs are going to be a hindrance from their ability to actually do the job.
We'll see Almanar first.
May I retain?
You may not.
Okay. I'll be speaking in favor. I'll be voting yes because she in ENA proved herself to answer the questions in a very professional manner. The questions of professionality and keeping her own personal opinions were brought up in ENA, keeping her opinions out of any decisions or opinions that would be made if she was to become Attorney General. I think it is a valid question to ask on keeping someone's opinions out of their professional work, but I think trust goes both ways. I agree with the sentiment that Chair Hall brought up, that we trust him to be impartial as GAP chair. I think I can trust Caitlin Moore to be impartial as an Attorney General for SG. I would like to state that she answered almost every question perfectly in ENA.
As vice chair, I tried to abstain as much as possible to be neutral. But the way she answered her questions and the professionality swayed me to vote yes in ENA.
I'll take Mole Martinez and I'll take a motion.
Yeah, I just wanted to state that I will be voting against this candidate simply because of some of the concerns that were brought up by Chair Yalamanchili. The sentiment that I sort of get is that this is a candidate who might possibly overstep their bounds as to what I believe the relationship between the executive and legislative branch will be. And so I just have some skepticism that I'm not entirely confident that I would be comfortable voting in favor of this person.
Martinez.
I'm echoing a very similar statements to Senator Yalamanchili, Senator Mole, Senator Sabula. I'm not if she is appointed, I will still work with her to my full ability. You know, I won't try to do anything of the sort. But I'm not 100% sure about the ability of her to do what is actually right. I mean, I'm not. Obviously, though, doing what's right is it's a bit up to you to decide who's right and who's wrong on these things. But I'm just still not 100% sure. So, yeah, I will not be voting for.
Chair.
Move to vote on the confirmation of Caitlin Moore as Attorney General.
There's been a motion to vote on the confirmation of Caitlin Moore as Attorney General. Are there any objections? Seeing none, we're now on voting procedures. With a vote count of 23 to 10 to 7, congratulations, Attorney General Moore.
We will now be seeing.
I'm going to preface this by saying we have about 35 minutes left, and I want to make sure that I can read into the minutes the internal legislation notices and get to miscellaneous business. So can I make a motion to table the confirmations for like 5 minutes, just so we can see that? Are there any objections to that? Seeing none, I'll take that as general consent. All right. Internal legislation, notice of legislation on first reading, constitutional amendments, none. Bills, internal bill 5405, updates to Title IX, Vice Chair McClellan, is hereby remanded to LJR. Resolutions, none. Proclamations, none. Special acts, none. Notice of legislation on third reading, none. Notice of legislation on second reading, none. Is there a motion to go to miscellaneous business? Any objections? Seeing none, we're there. Resignations, Senator Wen has resigned from CRT. Elections, is there a motion to open up elections for LJR? Is there a motion to open up nominations for LJR? Is there a motion to nominate Senator Nguyen? Is there a motion to close nominations? Is there a motion to open up LJR elections? Is there all those in favor? Those against? Is there a motion to close LJR elections? All right, congratulations, Senator Nguyen, you're on LJR. Appointments, Disability Caucus, Chair Borges, ORS, Chair Gell, Custis Couture, Greenaway, it was McClellan and Hall. Series of collectibles, really quick, 2 seconds.
I got this at MegaCon. It is a Jolteon card coaster. Yeah.
Right. Is there a motion to pick up confirmations back from the table? Any objections? We're there. Chair Gell.
We're now seeing the confirmation of Sierra Turner as Director of Communications.
Sorry, that was really fast, by the way. I hope it wasn't confusing. Ms. Turner, you have 5 minutes when you're ready.
Hi everyone, my name is Sierra Turner. I also go by Cece. For those of you who do know me, I'm a senior in the College of Business. So my major is integrated business and I have 2 minors in event management and professional selling. So on campus, I've been a member of CAB, part of their marketing committee and their UCF or Mr. and Miss UCF pageant committee. And then I've been on the Black Student Union for the past 3 years. So I served as first fundraising director, then membership director, and then vice president. And then this past fall, I was the marketing director for UCF Homecoming. And last year, I was the special events director for Homecoming. And that's a little bit about me. I yield my time.
We're now online for questioning. Anyone with a question? Foster, then Gail.
Hi, Cece, thank you for coming.
Foster first.
Oh,
Yep.
You can come back to me. I just forgot my question.
Dear Gail.
I also forgot mine.
All right. Anyone else with a question, perhaps? Dear Gail.
I now remember it. Hi, Cece. Great speech. What are you most excited for about this position if you do get appointed?
I'm most excited for carrying out my content ideas that I have for the page. I really am passionate about marketing. I'm sure you guys have access to my resume, so you can see that. But it's really fun for me. So just kind of doing what I want to do as far as content and then carrying out any initiatives that student government has in general. I think it's really cool to kind of put that in perspective and show students what you guys have going on and the impact that you guys make and how you kind of build their night experience. Also creating friendships. I think everyone's pretty great. And then just professional growth in general.
Foster, then Salerno.
What is the first thing that you plan to do if confirmed as director of communication?
It's funny you say that because I was back there putting together a content calendar. One of the first things that I want to do is introduce Daniela and Zelly as president and vice president, and then showcase their initiatives that they have for themselves. And then I want to do kind of like a checkup on when they're in progress or if they've been completed.
Chair Salerno.
Hi, thank you for being here. There have been some concerns that Senate isn't as highlighted as other branches. Same thing with the caucuses, same thing with the committees. How do you plan to address this concern? And how do you plan to involve Senate as much as possible in the creative process and the marketing process that undergoes during the planning of the posts in the student government Instagram?
Yeah, so communication is key. Just kind of meeting with you guys individually if you want to meet and just kind of get an idea of what you guys have going on. One thing I think I don't know if I'm allowed to do it, but kind of like sitting in on those monthly meetings you guys have with your dean, just so I can kind of see behind the scenes what you guys have going on and then best ways for me to kind of put that into content and highlight that. And then one of the things I mentioned in my initial interview was creating a request form. So it's kind of similar to how, I don't know if anyone's worked with OSI Design Group, but kind of creating a request form. So if you have any like events or programming or initiatives that you want to showcase, putting that in the request form, letting me know the messaging and when you want it promoted. So that way I can work with you guys. And then, yes, I also want to expand to LinkedIn. So I feel like LinkedIn would be like a really good platform, especially for senators. So that way we can kind of highlight what you guys are doing. And then in transaction, you guys can kind of put that on your personal profile. I know a lot of people use LinkedIn to kind of help them with their professional growth and career journey. So.
Second question.
What is the perfect timeline, in your opinion, to post something and then have an event happen? Like, what would that timeline look like? And also, how many days in advance do you think a proper event should be posted to let all the student body know?
Mm-hmm. I would say, so if you're going to do it on like a timeline post, like a regular post, I would say a minimum like 2 weeks of just promotion. And so that would probably be about 3 weeks of like letting me know in advance, or just even the 2 weeks. And I'm okay with last minute, or it depends on what it would be and, you know, what we have kind of lined up as far as the content calendar. The last minute requests would have to be looked at and decided. But those, if they're like last minute requests, I'd probably put them on the story. They wouldn't be as promoted as normal post, but 2 weeks to answer your question.
Third and final question.
I'm so sorry. How do you plan on diversifying and making sure that our website is as inclusive as it possibly could be?
Is this specifically the website?
any social media platforms?
Okay. So I mean, as a minority woman, a Black woman, I think it's very important to highlight the communities that we have here on campus, especially with diversity and inclusion being one of the tenets that UCF upholds itself to be. So one of the content ideas, I don't know if you guys have access to my proposal, but one of the content ideas I have are celebrating multicultural holidays, even continuing what last year's Director of Communications did as far as highlighting different heritage months and some of the initiatives that RSOs are doing. So just things like that. I think it's just awareness is the first step.
Chair Cox,
May I use all three of my questions?
you may.
Thank you. How will you work to make communications and social media more accessible for those with disabilities?
That's a great question, actually. I know one of the things I first learned as far as like general social media marketing, when you post pictures, I don't know if you guys know, but there's like an option to do alternative text. So that allows you to explain what specifically is in that picture for those who have visual disabilities. But I'd actually have to put a little bit more thought into that because I didn't really think about that. But that's one of the first things I would make sure that I do. It's a good question.
Can you repeat that into the mic?
That is my bad. I'm so sorry. Thank you. What are the 5 most spoken languages in the world?
That's a great question. I would not sure if this is completely correct, so correct me. But I'd say English, Spanish, Italian, French, and I'm just gonna take a guess, Swahili. Or German, I'm not sure, sorry.
That's okay. And then I don't have a third question. That one is answered.
All right. Foster,
Move to debate.
there's been a motion to go to debate. Are there any objections? Seeing none, we're now on debate. All right, I'm gonna go Richard, Cerisi, starting with Richard.
I know I walked in like a little bit late, but yeah, I think your qualifications are very good for this position. And I really like your personality. You're giving off very vibrant. I think that will be expressed well through our communication social media platforms.
Yeah, I will also be debating in favor of this candidate. I was going to ask a question regarding if you would consider using alt text. So the fact that you kind of already knew that definitely points in my book, and I look forward to collaborating with you.
Anderson.
Nothing dissenting. I think she's overly qualified and very receptive and willing to understand how she can do better. So I'll be voting yes.
Are there any dissenting opinions? Chair Gell.
Move to vote on the confirmation of CC Turner as Director of Communications.
There's been a motion to vote on the confirmation of Sierra Turner as the Director of Communications. Are there any objections? Seeing none, we're now on voting procedures. With a vote count of 42 to 0 to 0. Congratulations, Director of Communications, Turner.
We will now be seeing the last appointment of Annie Lee as the Diversity and Inclusion Coordinator.
Great, Ms. Lee, you have 5 minutes when you're ready.
Hi everyone, my name is Annie Lee, and before I get started, I wanted to share a little bit about myself. I am a Vietnamese Buddhist, first generation rising sophomore from Tampa,
Can you
Florida.
please speak a little louder into the mic?
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me now? Is it on? Hello? Okay. May I please start over or? Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Annie Lee, and before I get started, I would like to start by sharing a little bit about myself. I am a Vietnamese Buddhist, first generation, rising sophomore from Tampa, Florida, studying event management. I am the appointee for the Diversity and Inclusion Coordinator today, and this position is not one to take lightly. I believe someone in this position should be altruistic, transparent, responsive, and passionate. These are some of the values that I assume and practice in my everyday life. Some of my involvements on campus include being a part of SGLC and ELC, where I served as vice chair of the Nithon Committee. I am currently the event coordinator for UCF's Vietnamese American Student Association, where I collaborate with other cultural RSOs to represent and celebrate each other's cultures. And I am an on-campus recruiting intern for UCF football. With all my involvements on campus, I am able to reach and meet a diverse amount of students and was able to have conversations with them about how to make UCF a more inclusive and welcoming campus. I am honored to have been appointed this position and excited to answer any questions about my initiatives and goals for this position. Some of my goals are ambiguous, but I believe with my love and passion for UCF, along with the support of student government as a whole, we are able to make UCF a more inclusive and welcoming campus, because diversity without equity is just tokenism. Thank you. I yield my time.
We're now in line for questioning. I'll go Cerisi, Cox, and Becerra to start.
May I use all three of my questions?
You may just make it quick.
Okay. I know you stated in ENA that you were involved in the planning process for the Disability Awareness Fair. Can you tell me who chaired the planning meetings?
I was just helping coordinator Adrienne Lee with it. She was just basically telling me like the event processes and stuff like that. I wasn't a part of that meeting.
Are you able to name the organizations and games that were at the fair?
There was, unfortunately, I'm not able to answer that.
And my last question is, what are some of the issues that the disabled student community face here at UCF?
Some of the issues that the disabled student here face on campus is the ability to transport around campus and travel and get to various locations on campus. And that is one of my initiatives that I would like to work on.
Chair Cox.
May I also use all three of my questions?
You may, just make it quick.
Can you please elaborate on what the letters stand for in the acronym LGBTQIA+?
Unfortunately, I'm not able to.
Thank you. Can you please explain the difference between racism and prejudice?
Unfortunately, I'm not able to.
I only see the Vietnamese Student Association listed on your not resume. I can't remember what this other thing is called. The like other thing in the application file. Do you have any experience with other cultural or otherwise diverse RSOs or other organizations off campus?
While I can't speak on behalf of all of the RSOs and resources on campus like that, I am willing to learn. I am familiar with some of them, such as I'm sorry, may I please have a moment to collect my thoughts?
We can move on from that question if you like.
I'm sorry, yes.
Okay. We'll go Foster, and I'll take Sabula, then Temple.
I was going to defer to Sabula because she had her hand up for a while.
Okay, we'll go Sabula, Temple, Borges.
Hi, so you mentioned that you
I did call him Becerra, so we'll go Becerra,
Oh.
Sevilla.
Thank you. Are you willing to be working with the caucuses for Senate if you get accepted into this position?
Yes, absolutely. In my proposal, I said that I would love to meet with all of the caucus chairs, and that is something that I plan to do and help them with any initiatives and goals that I am able to. Yes.
Right, Chair Sevilla, my apologies.
Yeah, sorry. I'm sorry for talking earlier. So I have two questions. Can I ask both of them right now?
You may.
So first question is, you mentioned that you collaborated with other RSOs through like the Vietnamese Student Association. Could you name some of those RSOs?
Yes, we have APAC, our I'm sorry, may I please have a moment to collect my thoughts again. So we hosted an event called Tatumto, which is basically a celebration of the Mid-Autumn Festival, and we collaborated with multiple clubs such as the Luna Interest Group, multiple diversified Greek councils to put the show together, and those are just a few of the clubs that I worked with.
Thank you. And I decided I don't want to ask my other questions, so I can move on. But thank you so much.
All right, Chair Temple.
I believe my questions are already answered. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Chair Borges.
Thank you. So during the ENA committee, we had a lot of issues with your lack of involvement in minority RSOs, LGBTQ+, Hispanic, Latinx, and Black and African American RSOs to be specific. Have you taken any initiative to go to these meetings or learn more about them since that ENA meeting?
I have not been able to go to any of the meetings. However, that does not mean that I don't have any intention to in the future if appointed this position.
Chair Salerno.
Thank you. Could you elaborate a little bit more on why you decided to apply for this position?
Yes, so as mentioned before, I'm a part of the Vietnamese American Student Association, and I am also friends with a lot of people on the Diversified Greek Council, and we just don't see a connection or relationship with student government, and that is just something that I'd like to change and make sure that every student here has a home on campus.
Salerno.
I'm not sure if this is allowed, but I think she opened the floor. Could you name the past president of Diversified Greek Council and the current president of the Diversified Greek Council?
I cannot. Unfortunately, I cannot. I'm sorry.
All right. Chair Holmes and then Chair Gell.
Could you inform us on what your mentorship looked like with former diversity and inclusion coordinator Lee looked like?
Yes, she was basically a mentor that I went to if I had any questions about student government or about this position, and yeah.
Chair Gell.
Hi, Annie. My question for you is, considering you will be working alongside the caucuses, could you tell me your plans or any initiatives you have for each caucus, as well as the chairs of those caucuses?
Yes, so as mentioned before, I would love to meet with each caucus chair to get to know them and their goals and initiatives for the rest of the year. I plan on helping on any events that I can and just listening and being a support in any way possible.
Second question.
Yes, the follow-up. So my specific question is, do you have any initiatives or any ideas you want to bring to the caucuses? And can you name their chairs? Like, who is the chair of each caucus in the Senate body?
Unfortunately, I cannot name all of the chairs. However, I do know Senator Holmes is the chair of the Black Caucus.
Last question.
Last follow-up. Can you name all of the caucuses within student government?
Yes, we have our, well, I can't name all of them. I know that we have a Black Caucus, our Disability Caucus, our Women's Caucus, the LGBTQ plus caucus.
I'll take these last two because we were pushing on time. Costas and Castellan, then I'll take a motion.
Hi, I wanted to ask, what do you think, what are some of your initiatives for this spot of diversity and inclusion coordinator? And how do you think you can make UCF a more diverse and inclusive campus?
Yes, so one of my initiatives is to have an annual cultural fair, which is basically just working with all of the RSOs to come together and collaborate and just bring more awareness and spread knowledge about their cultures and who they are. And I'm sorry, what was your second question?
I think it was, I'm not gonna lie, I forgot. I'm sorry. Thank you for answering the first one though.
Castellan?
Yes, I just wanted to ask, so for next year, how do you plan to be able to have like liberated interactions with different student leaders of different RSOs, despite like cultural differences, or just making sure any student leaders of the diverse RSOs you would be working with would be like making sure they would be feel comfortable, just like having that open door policy with them. Like, how do you plan to ensure you're able to do that and provide that service?
Yes, so I would love to be able to sit down with as many RSOs and as I can, and just to let them know that I'm here and to support them in any way they need, to be a friend to them.
Pro Tem Cerisi? Move to go to debate. There's been a motion to go to debate. Are there any objections? Senator Spalding? Oh, okay. Seeing no objections, we're now in debate. We'll start with Cox, then Cerisi, then I'll go with Spalding.
Okay, I am going to be debating against this candidate. Ms. Lee does not know what the acronym LGBTQIA stands for. She does not know the difference between racism and prejudice. And in the ENA meeting, when asked to define racism, she gave the definition for prejudice instead. She could not answer Pro Tem Cerisi's questions accurately about the disability fair that she said she was involved for in ENA. She could not answer the question Chair Salerno had for her. She cannot name all of the caucuses in Senate. She dodged my third question as well as Chair Gale's question. I do not think she would be good for this position as she is not knowledgeable enough on this issue. While diversity is always a learning experience, I would expect more from a diversity and inclusion coordinator, and I would honestly expect a better answer for why she wants to run for this position than just being friends with people in the diversified Greek Council.
Cerisi.
All right, hello. I will be speaking tonight not as pro temp, but as former Disability Caucus Chair. I will unfortunately be voting against this candidate for the position of Diversity and Inclusion Coordinator, as I have some very serious concerns. This is not anything against the candidate as a person. In fact, I think they might be good for another position, but I cannot in good faith vote yes, as they do not have enough experience or understanding of minority communities to effectively operate in this position. Not only are many of their initiatives lackluster, but taken from things last caucus leadership worked on, which is very concerning. The Disability Awareness Fair was something the Disability Caucus put their all into making happen last session, and this candidate has included it in their initiatives as something they would like to do when they were never a part of it or when it was being created. It's incredibly troubling to see this under their list of initiatives when they lack even the basic knowledge of the event and its importance. Also, considering how closely this position works with the caucuses, it's even more concerning that while in SGLC and ELC, when they had ample opportunity, they never attended a single caucus meeting or event. While the candidate could learn and meet with caucuses now, why should we expect them if they didn't then? I will have to vote no on this candidate for all the reasonings I listed, and I encourage all of my fellow senators to do the same.
Spalding.
Okay, so I am a person who tries to look glass half full rather than glass half empty. And while this candidate didn't know much of the information, I don't think anybody really comes into a position knowing every detail. I definitely think that there's plenty to be worked on. There's plenty of learning to do, but as we always say, Senate is a learning curve, and we're here to help each other grow and thrive.
But I do have my concerns. And so while I'm not for this candidate, I'm not against this candidate either. So for that reason, I will be abstaining.
I'll take, okay, I will take the last three on Zoom and then I'll take a motion. So we'll start with Sabula, then we'll go to Holmes and then Yalamanchili.
All right, so I just want to say that I think that this candidate has a lot of potential, but we need someone who's qualified. And I don't know if I can really say this, but I'm going to be honest. I think it's really concerning that this person was even put into this position in the first place. And I think it's really unfair to them because I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. I thought I heard something. So while I think that she has a lot of potential and I'd love to see her in somewhere else in student government, I don't think that this is the place. And I will be voting no. And I encourage you all to do the same.
Chair Holmes.
I will be frank. I did vote in favor during ENA for this candidate, but for this confirmation, I will not be voting in favor. Just speaking as Black Caucus chair, it was pretty concerning to me that the candidate couldn't specifically say out the acronyms of LGBTQIA plus. And so sorry, I stumbled over my words. So that was a little concerning to me. And I don't know, that's something simple that I know myself. I know the acronyms of, and knowing that this candidate couldn't really even try to say them is concerning. And I know I'm Black Caucus chair, but I'm just concerned for my other chairs. So I will not be voting in favor of this candidate.
Yalamanchili and then go.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I echo the sentiments of Senator Sabula, Senator Holmes, and Senator Cox. I will not be voting for Mrs. Lee as Diversity and Inclusion Coordinator. I would expect that someone who is to be nominated for such a position should at least know the names of the caucuses in which that position is relevant, and she could not think of I believe it was the APIA caucus and the Hispanic caucus, and I found that rather concerning. I do believe, however, that Mrs. Lee has great potential, and I wish her the best of luck. And I encourage my fellow senators to vote your conscience.
Chair Gall.
Move to vote on the confirmation of Annie Lee as Diversity and Inclusion Coordinator.
There's been a motion to vote on the confirmation of Annie Lee as Diversity and Inclusion Coordinator. Are there any objections? Seeing none, we're voting procedures. With a vote count of 2 to 36 to 4, the candidate does not pass. All right, Senate Forum, Senator Temple.
For the sake of time, I will hold off until next week, Madam Speaker.
Great, Senator Spalding.
Okay, yeah, so mine's really quick. I do still plan on following through with my initiative on the parking garages, but I knew that elections and appointments are coming up, and I wanted to make sure I was reaching out to the right individual. So I just wanted to thank you guys for your patience and let you guys know that I haven't forgotten and that I'm still working on contacting those that I need to contact. That's all.
Anyone else for Senate Forum? All right, Senate deliberations, none. Advisors report, Brody.
All right, I'll keep it brief tonight. 4 minutes. Once again, not enough time for senator shout outs. This is hurting my heart to not do these each week. But again, we'll put it in the notes so you can write in some senator shout outs of your own. As we're diving into summer, I will just say, things are going to get busier. Senate's going to get busier. We're going to be seeing more things, more business, all those things. As all of your initiatives start building steam and making progress, make sure you are taking the time for your classes. It is critical. It is very easy to get caught up in everything we do here, and we do a lot of amazing things, and it's very important. Make sure you're taking time for your classes. Thank you.
Netta.
Oh, this is the first time I'm using this. This is so exciting. Yeah, I'm here to support you guys. Anything that anybody needs. If you'd like to set up a one-on-one with me, I'm here for you always.
Any questions for the advisors? I might just add senator shout outs to my report so that we can get to it. We'll see. All right. Miscellaneous business already went through. I'll take a motion. Go.
Move to adjourn pending final roll call.
There's been a motion to adjourn pending final roll call. Are there any objections? Seeing none, we're now on final roll call. Vice Chair McClellan.
Mole.
Here.
Portier.
Here.
Kira.
Here.
Gomez. Absent. Martinez.
Present. Present.
Myself. Millington.
Present.
Richard.
Present.
Temple.
Present.
Caldwell.
Present.
Robbins.
Present.
Spalding.
Present.
Van Kirk.
Present.
Steele.
Present.
Ferguson.
Present.
Lerdo.
Here.
Maury.
Here.
Wynn.
Present.
Simcoe.
Present.
Wanjan.
Present.
Revert.
Here.
Domino.
Present.
Foster.
Present.
Galloway.
Here.
Custis.
Present.
Beaumont.
Here.
Becerra.
Present.
Gal.
Present.
DeMarla.
Present.
Patel.
Present.
Yalom and Chili.
Present.
Burrell.
Present.
Borges.
Present.
Roll.
Present.
Almanar.
Present.
Anderson.
Present.
Castellan.
Present.
Fabiola.
Present.
Hall.
Present.
Holmes.
Present.
Huerta. Absent. Costas.
Here.
Martin. Salerno.
Present.
Saucedo.
Present.
Tashe. Absent. Reyes absent. Cerisi.
Present.
Cox.
Present.
45 out of 44. Wait, that's not right. Sorry, for some reason there's some. Okay, I'm sorry. 44 out of 49 quorum is verified.
All right. We're still keeping the union.